Still Victory Tuesday. We had Victory Monday yesterday. It'll be Victory Tuesday today. It'll be Victory Wednesday tomorrow. Probably wake up at Victory Thursday. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd. Good morning, Kyle and Tally. Thanks so much for being here on the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, Jeff, and, of course, Kylan in for the ever-vacationing Mark Dykton. I think that's just his name now, right? The ever-vacationing Mark Dykton.
So you approve all this?
Well, Mark makes the case.
Get him.
Mark makes the case, and he's not too far removed, that because he's been here for so long, he just has a lot of vacation time, and he tends to take it in 1 and 2 day chunks, and then once a year he'll take like a whole week off. So I don't know how this all works, but it seems to add up on the little computer program that we have.
I feel like I've been here
the show.
just as long as Mark, and somehow my days in the old ADP don't pop up as much as Mark.
Look, whatever he's doing, we all got to get on board and figure it out. But here's the bad and the great thing about this quote unquote new system that I'm sure is sweeping through America. It's not just our company. It's all automated now. Like the computer tells you what you can do, when you can do, and how you can do it. And if you try to do other things, it just won't let you. I don't know how that works.
Unless you're Mark Dykton and you hack it.
Well, no, he's like the guy with the red stapler in Office Space, right? He just keeps coming to work every day. No one's quite sure how that works, and he keeps getting paychecks.
Yeah, it's a good life he's living.
So at some point we bring in the Bobs, and they just go, "We fixed the glitch." What do you mean? We fixed the glitch, meaning that at some point I guess he'll just stop getting paychecks, and maybe he'll figure that out. I don't know. But no, we love Mark and we love Kylan. We're happy you're here today. And we give Mark as much grief as we possibly can as time goes on. But I don't know what Mark is thinking. Why would you take this week of all weeks off, Kevin? I don't get it.
It's so wild how the June schedule for myself, and I probably speak for everybody here in the studio, has changed a whole lot. I'm like, wait, when is my vacation? Does it match up with any of these 7 games? Wait, what about a parade? I mean, I know some of these things sound, I guess, a hair crazy, but really they're not that crazy. I was thinking today on the commute in, 2 years ago at this point, we had recapped the 5th draft workout of the offseason for the Indiana Pacers. Have either of you thought about the NBA draft this year?
No.
The NBA draft is 3 weeks from tomorrow. The Pacers have a first-round pick. Have you guys broken down the tape of Walter Clayton Jr.? Are we? Is Mackenzie Mbako's name still in the NBA draft?
We're just looking to get that rare 20-something draft pick that turns out to be a stud, right?
I mean, it's amazing to think about what, again, normally the June calendar looks like and where we're at here with the Indiana Pacers. So. Here we are on June 3rd, 2 days away from the NBA Finals beginning. And, the June schedule has changed a whole lot here, and that is for a very, very good reason.
What made the season feel long to me was seeing Indiana University men's basketball post their first workout video with their new coach, Darren DeVries. I was like, dang, they did get a new coach. They do have all these guys from transfer portal, and they're working out. And he's like, yeah, we got to keep things, locked in, high energy until, next March. And I'm like, I haven't thought about college basketball, any other form of basketball besides, obviously, the Pacers playing in the finals. So it is fun. It is busy, obviously, with things overlapping. Fever game tonight. They play the Mystics again at home. But, as a Pacers or just really Indiana sports fan, you really can't complain too much about your team getting this far.
When you guys going back out to Colts camp, by the way?
Thursday.
Later this week. So, one media viewing this week for OTAs. Next week, we'll watch the entire minicamp. But, think about it. You're outlasting the Colts offseason program. You're outlasting, Father's Day. I'm trying to think what else, on the calendar you are outlasting here. And, I thought one of the more enjoyable hours I've had doing this show was that 9 o'clock hour yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And it just kind of turned into pretty much fan calls. And you hear the variety of people and the variety of stories, not just people that were at the game. Justin called in with his neighbors, and they're sitting in the backyard. They're letting their son stay up, and they're shooting hoops in the backyard while the game's on. Just the different stories from season ticket holders, 4 years to 30 years, and the sheer joy that they all shared. It's not breaking down Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. It's not talking about how Quinn Buckner's presence has crippled the Indiana basketball program here lately. It's not these, in-depth sort of analyzations that we probably want to bang our head against the wall in really dissecting it, it's talking about one of your teams is the last two standing and the potential to do something the city has never seen, and that is have an NBA championship be delivered. So for those that missed it, yeah, I mean, Rick Carlisle, loved obviously chatting with Rick yesterday.
We'll go back over some of that about 7:30, 7:35 too.
Okay,
some
we'll,
of the stuff from
we'll
yesterday.
play back a little bit of that. But at the same time, just hearing from fans and a reactionary Monday that isn't talking about how the Colts are headed towards probably missing the playoffs again and more towards, where were you when this moment happened? I really enjoyed that final hour.
I'll tell you guys this, both on Instagram and TikTok, I follow NBA, NFL stuff. Like my feed, it's just eclectic mix, like I'm sure everybody's is. It's NBA, it's NFL. There's some baseball on there. There's all kinds of sports. Obviously, for me, there's cycling stuff on there, and then a lot of alien conspiracy theories. That's pretty much my TikTok feed right there. And maybe some jokey
You're a
type things,
conspiracy guy.
Oh,
Huh.
I'm not saying I don't know. I don't know if there are or there aren't. I'm just fascinated
you're
by
one
the
of
discussion.
those guys.
I'm fascinated by this.
Is the
Let's
moon
put it
landing
this way.
real? Is what Jeff Rickard is watching on TikTok?
I believe that the moon landing was real. That's just me.
Yeah, I would
but
hope so.
I will say this: when it comes to aliens, all I'm saying is I don't know. I'm not going to stake my life on it. But if I show up to work one day and all of a sudden there's a saucer hanging over the monument, I'm not going to be surprised. That's all I'm saying.
I just feel like if there are aliens, they have better places to be
Yes!
than here. So
What am I missing on TikTok? Because you are a TikTok fan, and not to
I
not
go
to
for
go
about-
like age
yeah.
demographic, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't guess many people around your age group necessarily are locked on the talk. So what am I missing here?
Locked on the talk. What a
I'll
phrase.
Say, as I send you guys a lot of times,
You do.
I see some
Golf TikToks?
I get a lot of golf TikTok, a lot of NBA TikTok, a lot of NFL TikTok. I like to spend about 20 minutes on it during my lunch break, just kind of get away from the day. And then the last 20 minutes before I go to bed and the kids are finally doing whatever they're doing and my wife is watching The Bachelor, it kind of tires me out and I'll do
Back
another
to the
15 or
top.
20
Okay.
minutes and do it. But what's cool about for me is I get these people take snippets from these great documentaries from all these historical sports figures and they'll give you they'll break it down in chunks for you and you can just almost watch a documentary some nights if you want to. I don't know. It's
Are you a talker, James Boyd?
a little bit, maybe not as much as Jeff. Now that I hear him saying he's watching documentaries on there, I'm like, for me, it's
well,
just.
I mean, you get them in 2-minute chunks that go for like 4 minutes at a time. You know, you do 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah. So I mean, I definitely think the what is it called? The algorithm is
Yeah.
probably better on that app than any other. You actually get what you want.
Pretty much.
Pretty much what you watch is what you see more of.
I get a lot of animal videos too. I think everybody does.
Yes.
Don't they?
No. Well, I don't.
No?
But again, what you watch is what you get. Which is I don't know if that's the same for. Obviously, the old Twitter, you kind of get just random things thrown at you throughout the day, which is
You hear only from the people who are mad about something.
yeah.
generally.
As far as I'll go on that, but I do see, no matter what platform it is, obviously getting back to the main topic here, a lot of Pacers content. I saw something from the NBA yesterday. Since 1984, since they expanded to the bigger playoff, seeding, the Pacers are the fourth seed to get to the finals. And the previous 3 have lost. And so they're trying to do something that is obviously pretty historic. I know, Kevin, yesterday you said, hey, 4 seeds don't usually get this far. You are very true on that. So they're up against the 2006 Mavericks, which lost in 6 games to the Heat. The 2010 Celtics lost in 7 games to the Lakers. And then the 2018 Cavaliers lost in 4 games to Kevin Durant and the freaking Monstars basically and Steph Curry. So we'll see if they can pull it off. This isn't like a definitely an underdog type of scenario for them. Obviously Vegas agrees, and I'm ready for the ball to get tipped up because I don't think that this is so lopsided where they have like no chance, and that's what I keep reading and hearing from everybody.
Yeah, I would strongly disagree with Vegas's discrepancy in this series right now. I think there are a couple specific areas the Pacers just have to I almost say prove that Oklahoma City can do this because I don't think necessarily teams have done this yet. I know Denver took them to 7, so you could probably certainly point to Denver, but I think there are a couple of very specific areas that the Pacers do things well that I don't think Oklahoma City has truly been challenged just yet. And so I think that's very important for the Pacers too. I mean, we might be watching a generationally great team. That might be Oklahoma City. I mean, so far you could make the case they've been that through the regular season, and this playoff run, I don't say it's been totally smooth sailing, but 2 pretty dominant series and then 1 great challenge. But I guess just kind of just prove that they can do some things that, again, I don't think they've been tested in a whole lot. And I just think game one is so monumental. Oklahoma City has been incredible at home throughout this postseason. And I think the Pacers have shown us throughout these playoffs, if you can get that first game on the road, it is just such a demoralizing loss to the opposition. And it sends such a message, I think, to both locker rooms. It sends, and I don't know, maybe the Pacers don't need that injection of life necessarily or belief. Maybe more so it sends it to the opposing locker room of, we're here, and you guys now have your backs against the wall. Just one game, but now your backs are against the wall. I thought that was apparent in the Knicks series. Obviously, the Cavs series, you're able to win both of them. So that's a little bit different there. But, sure, it still celebrate what happened. But like I said yesterday, I thought Monday was all about celebrating Saturday night. But I'm ready to start to transition to a series that I think the Pacers can definitely win.
We've been talking about, and I have specifically about, these are the two best teams in the NBA empirically since January 1st, and so many different metrics you can look at, whether it's pace of play, whether it's points off transition, all kinds of things. But more importantly, the Pacers have the second most wins, only to Oklahoma City since January 1st. We've talked about that. It's 46. Just to give you an idea of how good Oklahoma City has been, how many wins do you think they've had since the 1st of January, James?
Probably 50 plus.
53.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. They have been really good all year, and certainly the Pacers will be tested. But I think we heard in the intro to the show what they haven't played in 2 months. So I don't think the Pacers team you saw back then is the one we're going to see Thursday night.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk about it in a moment. The check down coming up in just a second here. And we got a very busy show for you today. I know as Kylan and I were talking this morning, big happenings here. We got Tony East at 8:30. We're going to hear from Rick Carlisle as we talked to him yesterday. We'll do that coming up in about 20 minutes. And then we've also got another guest coming up in the 9 o'clock hour.
Yeah, Joel Lorenzi. He is the beat writer for the Oklahoman. He covers the Thunder, and he also used to be an Indy Star intern. So he was here and helped me out when I was covering the Pacers pre-Tyrese Halliburton trade. So he kind of knows what the Pacers used to be, where they are now, and obviously what's going on in Oklahoma City.
All right, all that's still to come. It's another Victory Tuesday right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. I think we all know we're waiting for Thursday night, 8:30 tip, 8 o'clock airtime. The Indiana Pacers, say it with me, boys, play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals. Game 1 in Oklahoma City coming up on Thursday. And JB, there are not a lot of people picking the Pacers right now, not nationally anyway.
I will get my prediction later in the week. I'm excited about that. But I will say, the week is dragging. I mean,
it's going to take forever to get here.
Last night I was like, "What do I do with my life?"
It's Tuesday at 7:20, brother. Sorry to break it to you. We got a lot more until Thursday at 8:30.
I know, but do you feel the same way?
No,
I mean, last night
right.
I'm like, okay, well, because I'm used to honestly watching another series because of the Pacers being in the conference finals. But now that it's just two teams left, I'm like, what do I do with myself or my free time now? And so. It's dragging a little bit. Obviously, I'm glad that both teams get their rest and hopefully they'll be at, full strength, so to speak. I know we had the Jarris Walker injury update from yesterday. And for those who didn't catch this, Rick Carlisle told us here on 107.5 The Fan that Jarris will miss at least the first two games of the series due to the right ankle injury he had in Game 6 against the Knicks. Hopefully, he has a chance to come back throughout the series, but Rick Carlisle did not say definitively he will be back. It's just kind of left it wide open, and so we'll see from there. But, yeah, as we wait, I'm like, man, is it tip-off yet?
It's like you remember playing, James, those nighttime tip-offs just took forever when you were a kid to get there, didn't they?
This is true, but, I mean, I don't know if my parents were good parents, bad parents, but I did get to stay up and watch a lot of finals games.
Oh, yeah.
Probably when I was too young to really be doing that, so maybe that's where the love came from.
How about this?
8:30 tip for our parents with younger children out there. 8 o'clock on Sunday. So your Sunday tips in the series, 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9-point underdog. The Pacers are Thursday night. That seems like a large, large number.
I kind of like that number. I mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's
See
too
what
big,
happens.
frankly.
Yeah, I do too. And Kevin, as far as the Pacers are concerned, I think Rick gave him a little bit of downtime and then got him back together today is when he's going to
they'll
start
practice
going
today,
right?
off to Oklahoma City tomorrow. I think the NBA does a little bit of media day coming up tomorrow down there in Oklahoma City. Again, Game 1 Thursday, Game 2 is Sunday. The first two home games of this series will be Wednesday and Friday of next week.
All right. Also yesterday, the private service for Jim Irsay, and I was watching that on social media as a lot of people we know that knew Jim were giving their tributes again to Jim Irsay. It's, as we talked about yesterday, it still doesn't seem real in some ways, does it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very accurate way to put it. And I don't know when it'll ever, I don't know, maybe when Carly Irsay-Gordon, I don't know, has that first speaking engagement, does she join Greg Rakestraw and Rick Venturi in the booth during the preseason? We're so used to talking to Jim Irsay at training camp, James. I don't know, maybe one of those joint practices when there's just a different feel. You see maybe the owner of another team out there, and you don't necessarily see his presence, which has obviously been so front-facing for that organization for quite some time there. So, again, the Colts still in the midst of their offseason program. They'll have mini camp coming up next week that will conclude things, and then one OTA viewing will be out there on Thursday of this week.
Major League Baseball, very light schedule yesterday. A lot of teams traveling to get to new places. The Milwaukee Brewers somehow, some way beat the Reds 3-2. I don't know how that worked, Kevin, but that's what the final score was. Brewers have won 8 games in a row. They're playing pretty well.
Shout out to Joey Harrison's Brewers. And shout out to the stat I saw yesterday before the Rockies won a game. Scotty Scheffler had won as many tournaments as the Colorado Rockies had won games in the last month.
That's probably true. It is true. It's not probably true. It is
Think
true.
about that. Golf tournaments are how many days long?
4 days.
4 days long.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler had won the same amount of tournaments as the Colorado Rockies had won baseball games in the last month.
Yeah, it's just insane. He just won back-to-back Memorials, didn't he? We didn't even talk about it. We were so fired up yesterday about the Pacers. I think Scheffler just won back-to-back Memorials.
Back-to-back. Tonight, we'll see if Kylan Talley gets some minutes for the Fever. It seems like point guard-wise, they could probably use that. Ari McDonald signed yesterday. Actually, this happened in the 9 o'clock hour. We didn't have a chance to get to it yesterday. James Wood, we'll see if she gets minutes tonight. Sydney Colson is available, so that is a little bit of positive news on the point guard depth chart. Caitlin Clark still out. Sophie Cunningham also out for tonight. Fever favored by 4.5 against the Mystics.
Yes, we should get an update on Caitlin Clark, I believe, later this week. I think after you miss a week or so of games, you have to be made available to talk to the media. So we'll hear from her hopefully next couple of days. And then Erin McDonald, she had this funny moment. I want to say it was last season where she was like face guarding Caitlin Clark, but she had gotten fouled, Ari. And so she goes to the free throw line, shoots and sinks the first free throw, and immediately picks up Caitlin Clark, face guards her, and they're like, well, you have one more free throw. So she's locked in if you need to know. Get an idea of her personality.
She's known as a bulldog defender.
Yes. And so, yes, that'll be what she brings to the Fever.
I like it. We got to get something going on.
That was hilarious to look back on.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk more about that as the day rolls along as well. If you missed Rick Carlisle with KB and JB yesterday, we're going to replay a little bit of that. He said something really interesting, piqued your interest too, about comparison of teams. This one and the last time the Pacers were around. We'll talk about that next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Good morning to everyone except Stephen A. Smith. That's what I
Dang.
got for you today, James.
Dang.
No, I like Stephen A., but
Top rope?
sometimes.
Jeff off the top rope with the people's elbow.
He was taking a few elbows himself in this Pacers Knicks series over the last week
Yeah,
or
what were
two,
they
man.
saying? Orange and blue skies. It is dark in New York at the moment.
I told one of my friends in the New York media, I had posted a bunch of really cool stuff for the fans in the arena and leaving the arena after the game the other night, and they were like, boo, and I was like, hey, have a nice summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Gone
cool
fishing.
that the Pacers are still playing in June.
It's been a
Of all
while
months.
since they've been playing this late into the season, Kevin Bowen. How would you compare the last iteration of the Pacers team that played Shaq and Kobe for a title and this one? How would you compare those two
Well,
teams?
that's a question I wanted to throw to Rick Carlisle. Yesterday when he joined us, 25 years ago, I think it's today, it might have been yesterday, the Pacers clinched. The Pacers won Game 6 in Madison Square Garden to go to the NBA Finals against the Lakers. And, yeah, I figured why not? Rick Carlisle, an assistant on that team. It's a question I threw Rick's way yesterday. Coach, I don't know if you caught this, but Zach Kiefer wrote a piece on your guys' team in The Athletic a couple weeks ago, and he drew a comparison to the team 25 years ago. And I know Antonio Davis wasn't on the team that got to the finals, but he made a comparison of the toughness factor of the Davis brothers to what Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith bring to your current team. Obviously, the size analogy isn't necessarily there, but he pointed to the toughness of the two pairings. I'm curious, if you look back on that team that got to the finals, do you see any similarities, whether it's that one or any other similarities between the two? Obviously, the games and the style has changed a whole lot.
Well, prior to that season, I guess in the draft, it was probably the 1999 draft. We traded Antonio Davis for the draft rights to Jonathan Bender. Donnie Walsh made the decision because he could just see that the run with that veteran team was probably close to coming to an end in terms of being able to play at the highest levels, and so it was really the right move. What happened was we had acquired Sam Perkins, and I think that was part of the effort to replace Antonio. And then, that team had to, reinvent itself a little bit. And so Perkins played great. Austin Crozier played great off the bench. Travis Best, Jalen Rose were big-time players off the bench. Derek McKee was still playing at a high level. And so that team became defined by depth, rebounding and shooting. And, when you get to that point, and a lot of teams have ridden that team off once the Davis trade had been made, there's got to be an element of resourcefulness that a team can conjure up, find, whatever. And that team did, led by Mark Jackson, who was really the leader of that team. Reggie was, absolutely in his prime. Dale Davis was an all-star that year. I think Reggie was an all-star as well. Rick Smith was still playing at a high level. And so, the team found footing and got hot at the right time. And we went on a run to get to the finals. And we were down 2-1 to the Lakers. And I think there was a overtime game in game 4. And we ended up coming up just short. It went to 3-1. We won Game 5 to go to 3-2, and then we had to go out to LA for 2 games, and then we just couldn't get it done in Game 6. So it was a rough ending, but that team had a level of resourcefulness that I think this team has found in the playoffs. You have to have it. You have to find ways to win games unexpectedly. I think Game 1 in New York is a good example. A couple of the other comebacks are during the Milwaukee and Cleveland series are other examples. But once those things happen, you got to move on from that stuff and just keep the pedal down and just keep trying to find ways.
Keep trying to find ways, and that's probably the most apt description of this Pacers basketball team, James Boyd. They just keep finding ways.
Yeah, I mean, we saw one of the more unsung hero ways with Thomas Bryant hitting 3 threes. And I believe when I talked to several members of the New York media after Game 6, they were like, when he's shooting like that, you can't beat them. And obviously they don't scout for that, but that is one of the things that makes the Pacers so good. And on the flip side, the OKC so good as well. They have certain guys or a couple of different guys who can have moments like that. Is it every night? No, they have their stars for that, but they certainly have the role players who can step up in any given moment. And I think that's what makes the Pacers so potent is it doesn't have to be, Benedict Mathurin every night. It can be him one night. It can be Nembhard another night. It can be Thomas Bryant, on a random night, but it certainly makes them a really good team.
I thought I really enjoyed Chad Buchanan, by the way, on with John yesterday afternoon. That's the Pacers GM, and he pointed to the Tyrese football play. Remember the 4-point play?
The Jenny Busek play.
The Jenny Busek, Sue Bird drop the football play in the game situation. Halliburton hits the 3. If I am quoting Mark Boyle correctly, I believe he said floating out of bounds for the 4-point play. That was kind of mid-March, and that, I think, was one of the, maybe one of the first signs of, furthering the belief level to another mark. I said this quite often during the Pacers playoff run, whether it was a comeback against the Bucks, comeback against the Cavs, even Game 1 against the Knicks. The Pacers have turned their fan base into believers. That's not how fans are supposed to be. Fans are supposed to be cynical. Fans sit there and say, no, there's no chance in hell we get out of this jam. Fans say, there's no chance in hell we get this third down stop. That field goal kicker ain't making that. We're not going to get the timely 2-out hit. None of that. We're going to brick 1 of 2 of these free throws here. That's how fans are usually wired, and the Pacers have flipped that 180. They get the key stop. They make both free throws. They find the timely turnover. The Halliburton shot that bounces up in the air, it comes back through the net. And that, I think, is the first kind of short-term goal of this series coming up on Thursday, is put Oklahoma City into clutch game situations. For those that don't realize how the NBA defines it, the NBA defines clutch games as within 5 points in the final 5 minutes. Oklahoma City has averaged, here in the playoffs, a 25-point victory at home in their games. 25 points against playoff competition at home. They have beaten the absolute brakes off of these teams, particularly in their own building. So when I think of something the Pacers do well, the clutch. They've been unbelievable, really, in the final 5 minutes of games for the last couple of months. I'm not acting like Oklahoma City can't be clutch, but we don't know. They just set the NBA record for, biggest margin of victory and all these double-digit wins. And so many of these games, you watch Oklahoma City and you look over their bench, and Shea's not playing at the end of the game. Jalen Williams isn't playing at the end of the game. Chet's not playing because they have such a big lead. So that, I think, is the first kind of order of business for the Pacers. Put Oklahoma City into real game pressure. If you can get to that final media timeout and all of a sudden it's a 1 or 2 possession game, now you have Rick Carlisle who's been to the NBA Finals 6 different times. Mark Daigneault, this is his first taste of it. Oklahoma City so far in the playoffs, what have they had? Interim head coach in round 1, interim head coach in round 2. They're not used to facing a Rick Carlisle type of mind. Can you put the real game pressure on them? I think that is it's not like the, hey, Pacers in 6 or whatever goal that I think anyone's looking for necessarily, but for a, hey, this should be our focus right now. Let's make Oklahoma City sweat and see if they can check that box, because frankly, barely anybody's made them sweat so far. And when Denver did make them sweat, that series got uneasy quick on them.
And then Oklahoma City had another incredible home court blow-em-out performance.
Well, yeah, but again, can you put that pressure on them just because that was a Denver team with what? An interim head coach. Yeah, they got Jokic. I'm not going to ignore that aspect to it, but the Pacers have been an unbelievable clutch team here over the last 2 or 3 months. Can you get into those situations and all of a sudden put Oklahoma City in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation for them?
To that point, Kevin, I'm looking at it right now. The NBA has their clutch stats, which is, again, 5 points last 5 minutes of the game. The Pacers are 7-1 in those games in the playoffs, and OKC is 5-2. So
just put them in more of them.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. Obviously, you want to keep the game close so you can win it at the end. But one thing I will say, though, is I want to know, and I think it's been overstated when I'm listening to other people talk about the Pacers. like their half-court offense isn't that good, or like, oh, they only want to run. I will say in the first 9 seconds of the shot clock, their shot quality, their ability to score, their efficiency is way higher than when it drops, and that's with most teams. The later you get in the shot clock, the worse the shot usually is. But the Pacers do thrive off early shot clock scenarios, but I don't think that they can't play in the half court. I've heard that a lot where it's like, oh, make Tyrese Haliburton a half-court player. And I'm like, you don't become an all-NBA third-team player if you can't play in the half court. You can play in any scenario because you're a top 15 player in the world at that point. So, yes, he can certainly succeed in those scenarios. And then also on OKC side, can you force someone else other than the SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to beat you? And he is incredible. I mean, he's having a season that we haven't seen since Michael Jordan. And people might roll their eyes. It is true. If he wins the championship, he was the first player, first guard to lead the league in scoring, win MVP, first team All-NBA, and win a championship since MJ. That's the level that he's at. So can you force somebody else to kind of beat you late when you know this guy usually gets it done? Is it Jalen Williams or is it somebody else you're forcing to make shots? And yes, they're a really good team, similar to the Pacers, but do you want Tyrese Haliburton taking a shot with 5 seconds left? Or do you want Andrew Nembhard? OKC, do you want SGA taking that shot, or do you want, Alex Caruso? Like, you have to pick your poison when you get to this point in the playoffs. So I'm excited to see sort of the chess match within that when it does get tight.
That first point you make is what probably concerns me the most about the series. You bring up the Pacers in the half court. And yeah, I do think the Pacers are a good offensive team in the half court. But James, who are you hunting on Oklahoma City? I mean,
great point.
You can hunt dudes on the Knicks. You can hunt dudes on the
Cavs.
Cavs.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
It's hard to hunt people on the Thunder.
And they move the ball just as well as the Pacers do.
Well, I'm not talking about the Thunder on offense. I'm talking about the Thunder on defense.
Right, but in both
I'm
ways,
talking
yeah.
about when the Pacers have the ball, Lou Dort is an all-NBA first-teamer. And if you look at what he did to Tyrese Haliburton this year in those two matchups, he really limited him. Limited him from a usage standpoint, limited him from a facilitating standpoint. If it's not Lou Dort, it's Jalen Williams. You brought up Alex Caruso. For those that didn't watch the Denver series, Caruso's guarding up on Jokic in that series, and he held his own. If you know, Caruso is a guy that you can't hunt him. Shai's probably the one, but don't act like Shai's Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns from a hunting
Shai's
standpoint.
Like 6'6".
So that, I think, is probably my biggest question mark worry. Anthony Edwards had a quote, I thought, in that T-Wolves series that was so accurate to describe the Thunder. He said, watching them play defense is like watching 15 puppets all together on a string. Like, that, I think, is such a great picture and depiction of what the Thunder are defensively. And when Cason Wallace gets in the game, he provides some of that. Like, they are a team that it's just very difficult to find that advantageous matchup. And that's really what the NBA is so much about. When you get in the half court of, these are all very athletic dudes and certainly super skilled guys, but, that ability to kind of hunt a guy. I mean, the Pacers did an outstanding job of that, especially with Brunson, or even go back to Darius Garland in that Cavs series. That's my concern, is if you can't get the transition points, because if you want to boil Game 6 down to kind of one area, the Pacers put on their track shoes in the third quarter, and it was over. The Knicks didn't have an answer.
Off of them.
So if all of a sudden Oklahoma City can put on their own track shoes and run with you, that now moves the game to the half court. Okay, once it's in the half court, how do you attack Dort? How do you attack Williams? How do you attack Caruso? They come at you with some wing defenders that really the Pacers haven't seen yet.
Yeah, and so much of these playoffs, too, as much as I hate to say it, is the way that the game has evolved, and we've seen it series after series after series. Generally, if you're hitting threes and you're unconscious from outside, huge advantage, obviously, and you get a night where you're hitting your threes and the other team is struggling a little bit, that team is generally going to win the basketball game these days, James.
Yeah, to go back to Kevin's point real quick, 34 points off turnovers the Pacers scored in that Game 6 compared to 13 for the Knicks. That's your game right there. So they do want to run. And looking at the way OKC is built, and really both teams, I want to give a shout-out to our YouTube chat. Dustin brings this up. This is the series where Tyrese Haliburton can't disappear. You cannot have a game where you don't show up.
Right.
I mean, say it flatly. If he has a game where he scores less than 10 points and lose, they're going to lose the series. You can't give a game away against a team like this. And so I think that he doesn't necessarily have to be Tyrese Haliburton, that is, the best player every single night on the floor. But to win this series, he has been some of the best basketball of his life, I think, and also be the best player for 2 games out of this series, and obviously Pascal and others have to step up. But I think this is a moment for Tyrese to say, hey, that player you saw kind of get taken out of these games earlier in the season against this opponent, I'm not just that guy. And I'm not saying you got to come out and, score 35 or 40, but you have to be engaged. And if that means you have the, 17-point, 15 assist night, whatever the case may be, we've seen him do it. That has to be the best version of you, or the version we see, because the disappearing acts, and not saying that it is, some plaguing thing. Obviously, they're in the finals because of this guy, but just every so often he has those, and it cannot happen in this series at all.
Weirdly, I don't know if encouraging is the right word, James, but the Pacers just won a series 4-2. And I feel like I walk away from that series, and look, Halliburton had some great games in that series.
Yeah,
Siakam
certainly
had some great games. But listen to my phrase there. Some great games. If you can get Halliburton, and Halliburton probably more than Siakam because Halliburton's on the ball more, but if you can get either of them to find a 2-week heater, what could happen then? It's not like, I don't know, if I assigned a letter grade to Halliburton and Siakam in the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't know if I'd call either of them A+ for 6 games, or even maybe an A for 6 games. But they've created that standard for themselves. I know there's more, and it's probably just consistency more than anything. Siakam had 3 really, really good games in that series. Halliburton had 3 really, really good games. What if 3 becomes 5? Now, all of a sudden, as you rise up in competition here in the NBA Finals, does this become much more of a series than Vegas thinks? And because, Vegas is, it's probably more of a, well, you can look at it one of 2 ways. Vegas is just utterly disrespecting the Pacers. The Game 1 line of 9 points is laughable. The series basically saying Thunder in 4 or 5, to me, is laughable, but it's Vegas. And we'll see in 2 weeks how it all plays out. But I'm stunned. If you had told me the start of the series, I would have said, okay, Pacers, whatever, 4 or 5 point underdog in Game 1, and I would have set the over-under for the series at, Thunder in 6 or 7. That's kind of where I would have looked at it. We'll see how much. Frankly, you probably don't need any other motivation than it is to play for an NBA championship, but we know how people are wired. They look for anything to be motivated, particularly number 0 for the Pacers.
Yep, and you got to take care of the basketball too. As we've seen throughout these playoffs, Pacers are very good at that. They've been 3rd in the postseason in number of turnovers allowed per game, where they're only turned the ball over 12 times. But guess who's number 1, guys? any takers? Guess who's number 1 in that?
I'm sure it's OKC.
It's Oklahoma State. They're only averaging 11 turnovers a game, Kevin.
James, you said this yesterday. It was kind of funny. 5-10 years down the road, I think it'll be one of those NBA stats, which our market, it's probably easy to get one of the 2. But to say hey, who drafted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Hey, who drafted Tyrese Halliburton?
Yeah.
We're just so I know Shai as a Thunder player. 98% of the NBA probably knows Tyrese as a Pacer player, unless you're in the markets of Sacramento or Indiana. It is, I would say, probably eerie for the Clipper, and I don't know. I know the Clippers have had a little success after Shai, but to have SGA versus what they have right now,
and who's the common theme in all of that? Paul George. This is the Paul George series, Kevin.
Yeah, I can't do the Paul George thing. I get that the Paul George dominoes played out. I've talked way too much about Paul George over the last 7-10 years.
I think you and I were both were you at that softball game?
I'm here to talk 2024, 2025 Pacers against 2024, 25 Thunder.
He won't be drawn into it, James. I tried.
No, the only thing I'll say on it is whenever these trades are made, it's always fitting to look back and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did this. But you look back at the times when they were made, they were fine trades. It just worked out that way. But yes, I'm kind of Team Kevin on that one. Let's keep it focused on the here and now. And obviously the here and now is very exciting considering what's at stake. Both teams going for their first franchise title. And as we talked about, I believe a couple weeks ago, even though these Seattle Supersonics do have an NBA championship, Oklahoma City does not claim that. So this will be a chance for, again, each team to win their first.
And for those who aren't aware, I will just bookend this whole thing with that. Tyrese Halliburton ends up in Indianapolis largely because of a move with Paul George, and SGA ultimately ends up in Oklahoma City indirectly because of trades involving Paul George. That was the point there. That just interesting, to your point, how things work out. He's still
butterfly effect.
Yeah, it happens that way sometimes. We got a lot going on today, too. I'm looking forward. I just got a text from Scott Johnson saying, wait until you hear the stat of the day.
Okay.
Today. later on.
Scotty going to go Paul George on us again?
I don't know what he's going to do. He hasn't published it yet, but I'm looking forward to finding out what that is. I just know that, as we said at the top of the show, this week is going to feel interminable because I just want to get to game one so bad. I just want to look at it and watch it.
We got, 2 more sleeps before the game?
Yeah, it's a lot of sleeps, it feels like, when you're playing for championships.
Who's our NBA Finals crew? Obviously, our airwaves. What is it? Doris Burke, Mike Breen, and is it Richard Jefferson?
Not sure if they're putting Jefferson on the
ESPN's
finals
had
or
the
not.
rotational of what? J.J. Redick, and before that, Mark
I feel like
Jackson,
this is a Scott
and
Agnes
Jeff
question.
Van
He would know
Gundy,
this.
and because we're ABC throughout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm looking it up. I know he's looking it up right now, too, and we'll find out if but whoever has been their number one team all year is who it would be. So I know it would be Breen and Burke, and I would imagine it would be Jefferson, but I haven't seen anything published to that. So all I know is that Thursday night, it's coming up, 8:30. You're going to hear it live here on the 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, if you want to listen to it that way. That's how you do that. And then you can watch it over on ABC.
Speaking of Scott, I think he was the one that mentioned this yesterday. Shout out to the Pacers organization. They're sending, I believe, their full-time employees, chartering them either to game 1 or game 2 down there in OKC. I was talking a little bit with Chris Teneri last night. I think he said he's going to game 1. Him and JJ are kind of doing the flip. One of them's doing game 1 down there. The other one's doing the watch party. And then for game 2, I think maybe Jeremiah Johnson goes down to Oklahoma City, and Chris Teneri comes back for the watch party there. So, you do see this a good amount, when your team gets to the finals, but I think that's always really cool to reward the full-time employees like they are. Steve Simon, by the way, was on with Jake yesterday. So all 3 shows, Rick Carlisle with us, Steve Simon with Jake, then Chad Buchanan with John. Encourage everyone out there to check that out, hopefully at 10:01 today.
Yeah, it was a big day.
Check out those interviews.
I do have an answer for you from the ESPNpressroom.com. We have Mike Breen.
Yep.
You have Richard Jefferson, you have Doris Burke, and then you have Lisa Salters on the sideline.
How's Jefferson? I really haven't watched much ESPN.
He's pretty
NBA
good.
show.
I mean,
Is
he's
he?
fine. I'm probably the worst person to ask because I don't really think that anybody is, like, horrible. Whenever I hear people say, this guy is terrible, this woman is horrible, I'm like, did I miss something? I'm just so locked into the game, I guess, that I don't really notice it too much. But, yeah, I think they're fine. And Richard brings a certain level of humor as well. So I'm fine with that.
I'm looking forward to just watching, listening, consuming these games in as many ways as possible. And again, if you're out and about or you just want to turn the TV down, I don't know how easy it is to do on that ESPN stream, but if you're streaming both TV and radio, sometimes it doesn't work out every time, but sometimes you can pause, catch it up, match it up a little bit. Just depends on what you want to do.
I ain't pausing nothing. I'm sorry.
I like listening to Mark.
I
Come on,
respect it, but if I can sit in front of a TV, I'll catch it after the game. Mark,
James
I
is
love
watching non-HD. He wants to get it consumed as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
All right, we'll continue to talk about Game 1 of the NBA Finals coming up in just a moment. Also, a little bit more on the Colts and their somber touching day yesterday as they said goodbye to Jim Irsay. All that and more still ahead. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Good morning, and we're hoping to deliver more lightning than thunder in the next week, James Boyd, as the Pacers get ready to
look
take
at Jeff
on
with
the
the
Oklahoma
bars.
City Thunder
Okay.
there.
That was smooth. Can you clip that and send that in to be an Emmy?
Yeah.
Man.
That was smooth.
Marconi's here.
Oh,
Radio.
seriously.
That's okay. But I'm looking forward to the game, as everybody
Shows
else
you how
is
many I've
coming
won
up
in
on
my
Thursday
rich
night.
history.
You got potential, kid. It's good. You'll be there. It's all good.
You got potential, kid.
Call me a
So you
kid.
got the- no, you
Call
got-
me a kid as I'm turning
the
36
reference.
with a hair transplant and gray hair. And
Hey, it's all relative, KB. It's all relative.
Good point.
I basically get up out of a crypt every morning. So
where are you
So that
guys
goes.
thinking for cheapest ticket coming up here in the finals?
my wife and I were looking yesterday, and her thought was,
Have
she
you
was all
looked,
excited, and then she was like, "Yeah, no."
James? Have you looked?
I have not looked.
Okay.
And what do you mean by cheapest ticket? Like in
All right, how about
OKC
this?
or versus
Let's
Indiana?
go here. Game 1, Oklahoma City, Thursday night. The cheapest ticket on I just went to a random secondary ticket market. What do you think it is?
In
For a
Oklahoma City,
finals game,
Game 1.
trying to win their first championship.
cheapest ticket, like
Correct.
Up in the
cheapest ticket.
rafters.
Cheapest ticket.
I'm
We
gonna
are
go
up there with Boomer and the Catwalk.
180.
180. James Boyd, were you born yesterday?
No, I'm
Holy
joking.
I'm gonna-
Nikes.
I've seen the Gainbridge prices for 3 and 4. Based on that, I'm going to say in Oklahoma
Nosebleeds?
City
180. You might get a medium popcorn for 180.
How about 950?
No, 950. They're getting in the door. I'm gonna go at least. Final answer. At least like $400.
No, not even close.
Okay.
Game 1's cheapest ticket is $771.
$771. I gotta keep working in media.
So my wife and I we were looking at Gainbridge Fieldhouse tickets yesterday.
Now, let's go there.
Oh,
okay.
okay. Well, that
Game
one I know.
3 inside of Indianapolis. James Boyd.
180. I'm joking.
Don't guess $200. There's my hint. So
Man.
this would be a Wednesday coming up. So both of these are weeknight days. I don't know if that matters at all
Wednesday,
to your
Friday, right?
to your guest
I don't
process
think that
here.
even matters. I'm gonna go. Indy, I feel like is a little bit easier to get to, so maybe 872.
$1,105.
Now, if you'd have asked him that yesterday in the afternoon, you'd have been almost dead on.
Yeah, it is starting to go up.
So how does that work? Like, have they even opened up the possibility to buy
I don't think they've
tickets
opened up
yet?
individual. Now, I assume, obviously, if you're a season ticket member, you have access if you have the full game package. Back in the day, me and my buddies fresh out of college, we did like a 6-game package for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years. And I want to say we got every other playoff game, maybe, or every third playoff game. I mean,
Dude,
they didn't make
Jeff
very
is showing
long.
me the seating chart and like the prices. Oh my goodness!
Did I show you what the response from my wife was too?
Ooh man!
I sent her the picture of.
Oh, yes,
They have the arena and they point out this section will be this much, this section will be that much. It said I put $1,500 a ticket if you want to get anywhere near the lower bowl, and she wrote me back 30 seconds later. That's a no.
I mean, she's a very fiscally responsible woman, which I
So for
respect.
$771 for game 1, do you just make the 10-hour drive, take Friday off of work, $100 in gas there and back?
Is it just for one ticket? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
If it was just for me, I might.
Honestly, if you are a true diehard fan, make it an experience. Go do it. And if you get somebody else to do it with you, that would be really cool too.
I mean, I guess when you add in lodging, though, it'd be just as much as it would
You sleep in your car, Kevin. Come on.
Well, don't want to get arrested out in OKC. But if you do have the funds to do it,
spending $1,000 on
yeah.
tickets and then just sleep in your car. Oh, you could sleep with, I don't know, Kristen area. Offer up your hotel room if the Pacers are not only chartering
Here's
you,
a question
I
for the
got-
chat.
throw in
Yeah.
the hotel rooms.
What's the most you pay for a ticket? And I can't really answer this because I haven't really been to a lot of big sporting events that I haven't worked. But what's the most you've ever paid for a ticket?
We paid face value to go to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a couple hundred. That's probably the most. I mean, I was
Notre Dame? Did you have to hook up for that?
Notre Dame IU paid a lot. Yeah. That would be the one. Yeah.
I would be
that was.
willing-
Yeah. I think all said and done, I think that was right around 700 or 800.
That's about the max that I'd be willing to pay, but I'm not I don't want to pay that much money to sit like in the last 2 rows, which is actually not a terrible place to watch a game.
Yeah,
but
that's
I want to be
a great
able to really
point.
see what's going
I mean,
on.
we're talking literally 1,100, and you're picking up cobwebs, to sit in these seats.
Yeah, see,
for,
and that's
for the
where I
Taylor
get-
Swift and for the Notre Dame
That's where I
tickets,
get
they're
thrown
much
off
better.
because I'm like, I don't know if I would enjoy that as much as some others would. And trust me, this is no judgment because I certainly want people to experience the games however they want to. But I'm like, man, you're up there sitting next to God. Is it better to just watch it at home where you can stand in front of the TV? And again, I am very much a stand in front of the TV guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll sit down for game 1
I think a
or
lot
game
of it's
2,
just purely to be in that environment.
Yes.
which I definitely respect.
Which
Like,
I
you
know
can't
is like a
replicate
lot
that.
of like.
And the budget way to do that is go to your favorite watering hole and hang out with 50 or 100 of your closest friends and do that too. I mean, get that same together experience.
Well, that's not the
don't
same
you?
as being in the arena.
No, it's not, but it's also about $1,000 cheaper.
Well, sure.
Oh, we see Kylan just shot us a text. We have a caller.
I was going to
Kurt?
get to him. Kurt just bought tickets. Kurt, I'm just curious. You don't have to tell us, but how much did you spend per ticket, and where are you going to be sitting?
Yeah, you better tell us, Kurt.
I will tell you, it was rough. I was looking the last couple of days because I'm down in Arkansas. I'm 3.5-hour drive to OKC, so I looked at those. But I grew up in Indy. I was an intern in the 90s for a year with the Pacers, so I wanted to be back in the building. I missed it in 2000 because I was living in New Hampshire. Did not get to that final series, so I just bought tickets in section 207, 9 rows up. It was $722. But when you added the Ticketmaster service fees, of course, it was like $940 or something like that.
Wow.
Well, I
So
know
you
that-
bought tickets for game 3 here?
I did.
Okay.
I'm using American points. I'm flying up Thursday night, and I go into the game. I use Marriott points. I travel a lot, so that part helped. But it's costing me a little to get back in the building.
Can you direct? Is that a direct flight?
No, it's through O'Hare on American.
Yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, that's
Respect,
that's-
though. I
that's-
hope you have a
yeah,
great time.
hell
No,
yeah.
I'm
Hell yeah.
down
Thank
with
you, Kurt, for the call.
everyone's experience.
Safe travels, brother.
I'm just getting ready to send 2 kids to college in the next couple of years. That's the biggest problem.
You just tell them, hey, look, all those textbooks I was going to buy, go to the library and get them for free.
And I think what you're seeing here with these ticket prices, because like Oklahoma City, that's it from a professional sports standpoint. I mean, they got them, and they got, which seemingly is like unbelievable drama every year. They have the damn softball finals, which I feel like every year it's like down to the last strike.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yesterday
Here
was
comes
crazy.
some huge home run. There was a Texas Tech last night.
Texas Tech ended the
Beating
OU
Oklahoma,
run of
yeah.
4 straight NCAA titles. Yeah.
The 1,100 price I think you're seeing here is nothing compares to a Pacers championship.
But can we go
Like
back
nothing,
to...
like again, of all of the titles
Yes.
that could occur in our little, I mean, maybe Indiana basketball. I think for that big time fan base, but outside of that, I think there's nothing like possibly seeing the Pacers win it all.
I didn't know that service fees could be that much. I think me and Colin
they're
looked at each other
insane.
and we're like $100 plus.
Don't even get us started on
And so
Ticketmaster.
that would just throw me off. Like, tell me what it is in totality before I buy it. Don't let me click on something and it's like, oh, well, you know what? For the surcharge and upcharge and the county tax or whatever the case may be, and I end up getting like a $900 ticket. But I'm excited for Kurt to go ahead and experience the game.
No,
Yeah,
it's-
and again, this is the best part. I mentioned earlier, like we had a 6-game package fresh out of college, and I thought we got every other. GS has tweeted this at me. They have a 10-game package. They get every other home playoff game. Yeah, that's. I mean, honestly, that's like worth it almost. If you have a 6 to 10-game package, but you are guaranteed to get every other home playoff game, and somehow the dominoes fall your way, and you walked into Game 3 and Game 6 tickets. Of course, it's face value. I know it's
right.
a good chunk of change, but just the access to the ticket, that's worth it more than anything.
Well, I think a lot of people are excited. They're excited to go. It's one of those things where people look at it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And
Yeah, too.
I've been there. My dad and I, we overpaid for some Super Bowl tickets to go hang out together at Super Bowl one time. I didn't have a problem with that. It's just, I think
What
for a
Super
lot
Bowl?
of people, it depends. The first one we went to was 21 in San Diego, and they got beat by Doug Williams and Timmy Smith running all over him in the second quarter. But just the experience that we had for that, and I remember my dad saying at the time, and he's no longer with us, but he said, son, enjoy this because this is probably the last time we're going to be able to afford to be able to go to a Super Bowl together, because now some of those face value tickets to get tickets to a Super Bowl now, Kevin, you're talking in some cases $3,500, $5,000 a ticket.
Well, the Super Bowl is such a corporate, it's such a corporate event. Speaking of the Super Bowl, James Boyd, question for you.
This better not involve the Colts in the Super Bowl, but go ahead.
Do you view the Kevin Pritchard tenure and look at it and say, maybe we should be more patient with roster builders?
In relation to
Chris Ballard.
no.
Why not?
They're
Because if you look at the Pritchard resume, years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's not that different than what Chris Ballard's resume.
much different
like.
league, I would say.
Okay.
And I think there was some level of success with the Pacers even before they did have the Tyrese Haliburton trade. Now, you can say, they weren't really that good. They didn't make the playoffs. They were, a relatively decent team. I can't say that for the Colts the last 4 years. They've made the playoffs.
Right. I'm saying if you compare Pritchard and Ballard side by side the first 5 or 6 years, I don't think it's as different as maybe you would think. I mean, the Pacers did have a 6-year run without a playoff win, a 9-year run without a playoff series win. Pritchard's teams were a large part of that. Is there any? Clearly, I think you've made your answer felt. There's no comparison you make. Because obviously the Colts are thinking a different way. Whether it, largely is probably Jim Irsay, but I think the daughters are on board as well. They clearly are giving patience to Chris Ballard.
See, I'm actually very curious to see how patient they are, how patient Carly is.
Well, so far, I guess, let's live in this world. So far, they have been patient.
Because
I think there were some Pacer fans out there, maybe not a lot, but when the Nate Bjorkgren thing happened, they said, let's just start over. Where they didn't start over. They kept Kevin Pritchard on. They hire Carlisle. And obviously, you have the Haliburton trade. Certainly, you have the Siakam trade. You have so many different things. Basically, I think what I'm getting at here is Pritchard got about 3 different opportunities at building this. How many opportunities do you give a person in that position to build it?
I kind of agree with James, though. I like the premise of the question, but when you go back and look at what those guys had done, Pritchard particularly, I mean, they thought that they were building something around Paul George. Remember that? And that didn't work out because he decided to go somewhere else. They thought they were going to be able to build something around a healthy Victor Oladipo. He gets hurt. He starts staying away from Indianapolis. Next thing you know, he's never the player that he was before, and now they're kind of out what they thought at the time was going to be somebody to build around. So then they kind of start over again. So in some ways, do you think you got the benefit of the doubt from the Simons saying, hey, Paul George didn't work out, the broken leg, and then deciding to leave?
Yeah, I mean, Ballard's getting benefit of the doubt from the Irsays and talking about Andrew Luck.
Yeah, but
that's how many years ago
the
now.
timeline right now.
But that's why he still has a job. I mean,
Pritchard took over as a GM in 2012.
Yeah, but Larry Bird resigned in 2017? That's where I point to. I point to Pritchard taking over.
So you're going 2017, which is fair.
That's the same year as Ballard. That's where I bring up the
okay.
question. And look, I want to be very clear to answer my own question. I think you know where my answer is. There was real light at the end of the tunnel very quickly after the Haliburton trade. Whereas the Anthony Richardson draft pick, the light at the end of the tunnel, you got to squint all the way to the freaking Himalayas to try and find light at the end of the tunnel. But I do think it's just an interesting thought of how patient are you with roster builders? How patient are you with GMs, presidents? Because, it's varying degrees across professional sports, how owners view those people. And in this market, the Simons were patient with Pritchard, and the Colts have been patient with Ballard. You would say it's worked for the Pacers, right?
It has.
And now for the Colts, what?
At some point, we got to start seeing some progress, though.
Sure. Yeah, trust me. I'm asking the question. I want to be very clear.
Yeah. I'm
just trying to create, a decent 5-minute chunk of radio.
No, I think it's a great, like I said, I like the premise of the question a lot. And we haven't seen a lot of progress.
For our YouTube audience out there, James has given me about 17 different smiles. I think he wants to call me an idiot for even asking the question.
Say it, James.
I don't know. I don't think you're an idiot, Kevin. I certainly don't think that. But I just think you put yourself in a bad position to ask that question when one team is in the finals and the other team hasn't made the playoffs in 4 years. Like, you set yourself up for that, man. Like, what am I supposed to say? Yes, it's going to work out for Chris Ballard.
Obviously,
I don't know.
over the last 2 years, like I said, the light at the end of the tunnel is totally different. But just as quickly as 18 months ago, the Pacers hadn't won a playoff game in 6 years. 18 months ago, the Pacers hadn't won a playoff game in 6 years. So, again, where is this patient divide?
I would get, and I said this even a couple of months ago, it felt like to me that Jim Irsay is essentially tying the future of Chris Ballard and his regime in charge at the Colts to the ultimate reckoning on what happens with Anthony Richardson.
So what happens when Daniel Jones starts week 1?
Well, that's my point. If he has success, then people go, okay, Chris fixed his mistake. But if he starts and if there's a final reckoning this year on clearly Anthony Richardson is not going to be the guy, and the Colts, one way or another, decide to move on from him or don't pick up his option after the end of the year and all that kind of stuff, Kevin, then I think you say, yeah, it didn't work out.
I'll play ball. I'll say this. The Kevin Pritchard experience looks a lot different if the Suns don't match the offer sheet for DeAndre Ayton. And therefore, Miles Turner isn't here.
Such a great point.
Your big man is DeAndre Ayton. And your tandem is Tyrese and DeAndre Ayton before even you get Pascal, if you get Pascal at that point. And they were going to pay DeAndre the max. And so sometimes I guess you got to get a little lucky, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
because that was a scenario, and I've heard
you
Pacers
create
fans,
your own luck, but you also have to get lucky.
Yeah, I've heard Pacers fans tell me, they knew the Suns were going to match. Not necessarily. Like, you don't – if you're Herb Simon, you don't say, hey, go sign that guy for $100 million plus if you don't intend to pay that guy that money. Like, you don't do that as a bluff to anyone. And so part of that makes me think, like, man, you dodged a bullet there and you got a little bit lucky because of that, you were able to go out and get someone else in Pascal Siakam and obviously build this team in a different way. So maybe it is a bit of luck. Like, you need a player to hit. And even then, I still think it was quite a gamble to sort of project that Tyrese Halliburton will become this. Because as I've told you, if other teams had envisioned that, they would have traded for him too. Whereas with the Colts, they projected Anthony Richardson to be a certain player, and he hasn't come close to that in his first 2 years.
Yeah, and again, let me be very, very clear. Kevin Pritchard has run circles around Chris Ballard as we sit here on June 3rd, 2025, if I can go back to answer my own question. But when Kevin Pritchard took over in 2017, guys, from 2017 to 2023, how many playoff games did the Pacers win? 2017 to 2023.
2. 0. They didn't get not one series?
Series? None.
Wow.
So the first year, they were able to take them to 7, Cleveland. And then after that, you didn't win a single playoff game, and you won no series. If you look at the Colts actually won a playoff game in 2018 in that span. So I think it's an interesting case study in the patience. And I don't know, maybe comparing the NBA to the NFL is not apples to apples, and it's stupid outside of those two being in the same market. And obviously, the last 2 years, it has gone a total 180. The trade for Tyrese Halliburton, and really the hiring of Rick Carlisle, is probably where Kevin Pritchard deserves a lot of credit as well. Going from Bjorkgren. I think one of the best things Pritchard has done is realized when he's needed to pivot. Turner Sabonis, nope, can't do it anymore. Time to pivot. Boom, he did that, did it exceptionally well. Nate Bjorkgren for 1 year in the COVID year. If you're Kevin Pritchard, you easily could have played your ego out there. You could have said, you know what, I hired this guy. That was the COVID year. We're going to give him another year. No, he cut bait. Said, enough's enough. I need to do something different. And goes out and hires a Hall of Fame coach. And now look at, like, I would say, if I could describe one difference between the two, Pritchard and Ballard, it would say Pritchard has realized his mistakes earlier and better and moved on in an exceptional manner, whereas Ballard, I would argue, A, hasn't admitted his mistakes, and when he has, the pivoting hasn't worked. Like, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz has turned into Anthony Richardson. Well, that hasn't really worked out, you know? So that's where I would say Pritchard's in a far different situation.
All right, time to tell you what's going on.
I'll never forget those looks that James Boyd gave me for even asking the question.
Yeah, I mean, they say there's no stupid questions, but Kevin, I'm trying.
Oh, my goodness. I'm
I'll say
sitting in the middle today.
Did
In all
Andrew Luck
seriousness?
not retire in year 2 of the Ballard regime?
Oh Lord, you're playing all the hits this morning. The last thing I'll say,
I'm doing my best New York radio
to kind of
impression
help.
here.
No, you have to yell a lot more for that. It is harder, and I'll give not Kevin Pritchard, Chris Ballard some grace there. It is harder, I believe, to build a championship team in the NFL versus the NBA, because as we've seen, 1 or 2 players can change everything for your franchise. Whereas with the Colts and really any NFL team, you can have 1 or 2 great players, but if not your quarterback or like your left tackle, or defensive end, it does not matter. Doesn't matter.
Michael says this. I think the difference in Colts versus Pacers patience is ownership. Irsay said all chips in. Pacers said be patient. It's an interesting take on it.
Ooh, what a bar.
Well, we got plenty of time to talk about it all summer long, and we'll
Sorry,
celebrate
that was
more
probably
Victory
a July
Mondays,
combo
Tuesdays
more
with
than
that.
it was
It's
a
all good.
June 3rd combo.
You were on a roll, and James is smiling at you. I'm just trying to get out of the way and not take strays in between. That's all.
Yeah, I'm just smiling and hating.
The Indiana Pacers will try to take Game 1 of the NBA Finals on Thursday night. They'll play the Oklahoma City Thunder. It starts at 8:30. Airtime 8 o'clock, and a little pregame to the pregame here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, too. We were working a lot yesterday. JMV, a man of the people, he is going to be out all the time at local places during this NBA Finals. So
we need to get out. Can we do some coffee shops? Game 3, Game 4 mornings? Come on.
I'm ready for a coffee shop to step up and
coffee
host us,
shop,
and we're good
if
there.
you want to put a little something in my coffee, come on. Let's go. Game 3, Game 4. Next Wednesday.
You going to bring
next
another
Friday.
case of Bud Light in the
No,
morning there?
I will cater the coffee shop.
Anyway, Thursday, Game 1. Indiana Pacers are a 9-point underdog in most places right now.
Yeah, I just had to look this up. They're trying to win their first road finals game in franchise history, because I believe the 2 wins they had back in 2000 were at home. So Pacers trying to do something they haven't done before ever.
Looking forward to see how it all plays out.
They got a
Again,
shot.
Thursday night, we'll have Game 1, Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. Meanwhile, Major League Baseball yesterday, a light schedule. The Cincinnati Reds dropped one at home to the Milwaukee Brewers. 3-2 was the final score there. Of note in Major League Baseball yesterday, though, the Rockies won their 10th game of the year. You had the great stat about Scotty Scheffler and the Rockies earlier in the show, Kevin.
Yeah, entering yesterday, Scotty Scheffler had won as many tournaments in the last month as the Rockies had won baseball games.
Ooh.
That's one of the sadder stats I have ever heard. Again,
Sad.
golf tournaments are 4 days long, and the players don't play every week. In a month, you get, 30 opportunities to play a baseball game? 28?
28, yeah.
Scotty Scheffler's gotten 4 chances to win a golf tournament, and he's won 3 of them.
Not good.
By the way, do we have more cheating in IndyCar?
Yeah, I was going to ask you
This
about
seems to
that.
be like a weekly occurrence.
Another post-race inspection problem coming out of Detroit, KB.
So Ferrucci's car didn't weigh enough or weigh too much?
It didn't weigh enough from what I read.
Yeah.
He's a small fella. I don't know if you take that into consideration. But he didn't lose his spot. He keeps the runner up
And you lose a couple points in the
and lost some money, got fined.
Yeah, I think you lose a couple points in the poll. Not a couple, but you lose that.
Gosh,
but yes,
man.
it's all very confusing to me. I'm trying to stay attached, y'all, but man, all this stuff, I'm like, okay, can people win and just like be winners, or how does that all work?
Okay, no spraying of the champagne on the podium till Wednesday. We'll all reconvene on Wednesday. We'll all go through inspection, and then we can do the champagne.
There you go.
Delayed celebration, Kevin.
Something like that.
All right. Women's college softball. How about the 4-time defending champion Oklahoma Sooners? Their reign has come to an end, defeated by Texas Tech yesterday. Now, Oklahoma had a 2-run home run in the top of the 7th to tie this game, and then
That
a
was
sac
crazy.
fly from Texas Tech won it in the bottom of the 7th. But the pitcher for Texas Tech had been an NIL transfer from Stanford, and she was a $1 million pitcher in that game. I don't know if you saw that, but her name, it's just amazing. Najari Kennedy, is that how you say her name? Kennedy?
I'm not sure, but yes, that is her.
She had led Stanford to 2 straight appearances in the last 2 seasons in the College World Series, left Palo Alto for $1 million NIL package to go to Texas Tech, and nearly shut out Oklahoma until that 2-run home run in the 7th last night.
But she was a big part of why they won, and you got some Oklahoma fans I saw complaining about, they bought a championship. These are the new rules. Get with it or, lose.
I like the fact that women are making $1 million in NIL now, Kev.
Yes, outstanding. I know we're way over. We got to get to Tony East. Fever tonight, slight favorite, WALV TV-wise. We'll see if Kyle and Hali gets minutes at point guard as they are very banged up right now. The Mystics, Lily King will officially call it a career this week over at the Natatorium. Toyota Championships, I believe. So the 28-year-old, 6-time Olympic medalist will retire in a pool that I would say she grew to become a star. The Natatorium, iconic pool over there on the campus of IU Indy.
Kylan's got a spotty jumper, but you are a fierce defender.
You know what?
Fierce defender.
Making moves down the court like that, we'll see. I might break my ankle too.
There you go.
Oh, can I mention one real quick?
Yes.
A story that is worth mentioning. Kevin, you're going to like this. Golf's longest day is over a week out right now. June 12th through 15th is going to be the U.S. Open. And Matt Vaught, a dentist from McCordsville, Indiana, just qualified for the U.S. Open last night. So that's worth mentioning.
Shout out to the Butler product. Shout out to Bill Mattingly, my high school golf coach, to Coach Matt. Matt Vogt, I believe, long hitter, went out to Washington because they had wide fairways, and he hits at a country mile. Member here at Highland Country Club in the Indianapolis area. Awesome hull of an accomplishment. Caddy at Oakmont, watched his interview last night on Golf Channel, lost his dad a couple months ago. So that's part of what the U.S. Open is all about. So really, really cool story coming up here a week from Thursday as we get to the third major on the golf calendar.
Good job out of you.
Shout out listener Doug. He called in with that.
All right, Doug. I love it. All right, coming up in a moment, Tony East. He does the Locked On Pacers podcast and covers the Pacers for a number of other outlets as well. We'll get his thoughts on Game 1, the NBA Finals, coming up next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Yes, we are the Indiana Pacers radio broadcast partners and station. And yes, we're getting excited about game one, just like you are, Thursday night against Oklahoma City. They'll start on the road. And here to tell us a little bit more about that matchup, Tony East, who does the Locked On Pacers podcast. He's an IU grad. He works for Forbes.com. He's all over the place. He's all in to information and thoughts on the Indiana Pacers. He joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline. Good morning, Tony. How about that for an intro right there?
Yeah, I loved it. That was great.
Man, I like that. So,
What if he was like, yeah, that was terrible?
well, sorry. Do our best here. But here we go. 9-point underdogs. I know we've talked about that a little bit, and people don't get too worried about that unless they're doing a little something on the side there and wagering on it. But what do you think about a 9-point spread for game one for these two teams?
Yeah, I think it's actually good for people to realize that that's what people think of the Thunder, right? They're that good. They've been that good for most of the season. I think that they still have more double-digit wins this season than the Pacers have total wins. Like, they're that loaded of a team. Their defense is that ridiculous, and there's going to be a lot of games like that. But Rick Carlisle's going to use it and say the same things every time. Oh, we're not the favorites in any of these games, and it fuels us. So it's not that surprising to me, but I don't really think the Pacers care or think that that's reflective of how good they actually can be in the series.
Tony, when do you leave for OKC?
Today, after the Pacers practice, yeah.
All right. I'm going to be flying solo at the Fever game tonight. Oh, I could cry. But I do want to say this. Looking at the matchup itself, in what ways do you think the Pacers can perhaps penetrate this OKC defense that we know is one of the best, if not the best, in the league?
Yeah, there's going to be times where, like, Alex Caruso's out there, Casey Wallace is out there, Jalen Williams is out there, that it's really hard to find perimeter penetration. I think it's going to be really important. I thought this when the Pacers played the Cavs as well, for the Pacers to be themselves, right? They had to play fast and keep the ball moving in a way that, you know, keeps that Thunder defense moving and just increases the chances that they make a mistake at some point in a possession. That happened to the Knicks a lot. It happened to the Bucks a lot. They just kept playing random. Eventually something will break down, but it's not easy to do that against the Thunder. Their defense is so good. They love to trap the ball. They love to overload the strong side. They'll throw in some zones. That's how they beat the Pacers in December, and they're very good at it, and the Pacers struggle against a lot of zones, especially unique ones. So it's going to be important for them to be themselves, and I think the other part that's going to matter a lot is whoever Shea is guarding. Don't get me wrong. Shea, for a star player, is a pretty good defender. He gets a lot of steals. He doesn't mess up as much as your typical smaller guard does on that end of the floor, but I still think it's very important the Pacers make him work, like they did with Brunson, just wear him down, use that as a way to, have that wear down effect, be a part of the game. Maybe that makes him worse on offense at some point in the game, but especially on the defensive end, he's a little bit targetable, and I went back through the regular season games. Injured Emhart had 2 really good games against the Thunder, and Shea was guarding him a lot of the time. He was able to slither into the paint, make some passes, make some shots, right? That was pretty important, and so even though he won't be on the floor the whole game, I think that that's somewhere that the Pacers are going to have to find their advantages against the Thunder, is bring Shea into actions and try their best to find any sort of 4 defender on the floor to attack, because there aren't that many holes for OKC, and the Pacers offense has been so good that being themselves will be important, but finding that specific matchup I think is going to be key too.
It's the voice of Tony East, Locked On Pacers, a great listen. Tony joins us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Also, really nice piece on the on Forbes. Pacers knew big things were possible. Use special night to prove it. Nice work, Tony. With that, before we get into Pacers Thunder, did I hear you have a secret pizza spot?
It's not a secret to anyone in Indy, but
okay. Well, what's your
Pearl
pizza
Street's
joint?
right by you guys. It's the best.
Where?
Pearl Street's right by you guys.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Pearl Street's outstanding right there. Yeah, certainly. Okay. Outstanding. Honestly, you walk over to the Gainbridge Fieldhouse, it's a perfect little
It feels like a
pit
secret
stop.
to me because for some reason it's never full, and it always should be. It's so
Well,
good.
it's like it's the entrance is in like an alley. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
it is a bit hidden from that aspect of it. You might have just answered it, but the Pacers have the biggest advantage where?
Oh, yeah, it's tricky too, because like every series they've played in the playoffs so far, you could talk about their pace being this big advantage. That's not really the case. The Thunder have a faster pace than the Pacers in the playoffs, and I think that's a little misleading because they get a lot of their pace number juice from a bunch of really short defensive possessions because they get so many steals and then score off of them. But regardless, they do play fast. and they have very few holes on the defensive end to really target. Like it's not easy there, and stylistically they're just really good, right? So it's not as easy to find those sort of things for the Pacers, and they play depth. They play 9 guys very routinely, right? That was the Pacers' big advantage against the Knicks. They were able to use their bench to have lineups on the floor that were successful against Knicks starters entire amount. So that's why I think that the Pacers' random style is going to have to be their advantage. Like you just said, I did just kind of answer it, because they've been able to make good defenses bad in this playoffs when they're playing their best because of that. Eventually, someone always messes up, and it only takes one guy messing up for a defense against the Pacers for them to get an advantage that they like and get into the paint. And once they get in the paint, the ball just keeps moving. So I think that's the biggest part of the series. Like if they can't play with their pace, or if they can't play as random as they want because of stuff the Thunder are doing, I think they're just going to be toast, because that Thunder defense is so good. They'll turn it over too much. They won't be able to get good shots. And so being themselves is just so important, because the Thunder are so good because they have no weaknesses, right? They're that good for a reason. They can win in many ways. It's going to be important for the Pacers to win their way.
Tony, last quick question for me. How big an advantage is it for the Pacers, if an advantage, that Rick Carlisle is the head coach, and he's been through this so many times and had so many experiences and points of view to draw from here?
Yeah, that's the part of the series that I find fascinating, is like we could talk about all these basketball reasons that the Thunder are very good, but like at some point the stage is so big that matters less, right? And it's the finals. It's as big as it gets in the NBA, and the Thunder have not that much finals experience, right? Do they have any champions on the team? I might be missing someone obvious.
Alex Caruso.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Caruso with the Lakers in the bubble. That's right. But not that much, right? And Daigneault's never been on this stage, and I think Mark Daigneault's a very good coach. Like Rick Carlisle told us after Game 6 of the Knicks series, this is 6 finals, right? Like he's done this a time or two. He understands what this is like. And, Pascal, obviously, Thomas Bryant, the Pacers have this a little bit more of the big game experience. And so I wonder how that changes things, right? Like if it's not a basketball related reason, if guys are messing up, or the stage just changes the way teams look, or how prepared teams are. And we've seen the Pacers do very well with these sort of moments recently as a team and be ready for them. I think that dates all the way back to the in-season tournament in 2023. I think that could be a part of it. And that is a good way to get to Rick and say that he's had a great playoffs. His adjustments have been sharp. His preparedness he's had the team with has been great. He always has them, generally I think with the right mentality approaching games or days or whatever. Like last series, he kept making it clear to everybody that it was a 13-day grind. I think this would be a 20-day grind, the finals would be, and how important it is for everybody to stay focused for the 20 days. Maybe the Thunder are ready for it, but I certainly think the Pacers have an advantage on the clipboard in this series.
Tony, travel safe. We'll talk to you soon, maybe from Oklahoma City, and thanks so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it as always.
Good to hear from you guys. Take
I'll
care.
miss you.
Tony, are you driving or flying?
I'm taking the automobile to get down there, yeah.
Nice. So what is that, 10 straight through? We're going to divide it up?
10.5 with some stops at TBD locations. If anyone has any recommendations for the corridor from Indy to OKC, let me know.
You might be able to check out a Cardinals baseball game if they're home, right? Isn't that kind of somewhat midway point?
Go right through St. Louis.
Yeah.
I've never been to a Buc-ee's. I want to see if one is on my route.
That is Tony, what is it, R East on Twitter?
That's correct.
Tony R East for suggestions on the 10.5-hour drive to OKC. Safe travels.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
They will clog your arteries going in, but, man, the cleanest bathrooms of all time at any Buc-ee's.
I was wondering where you're going with this. I was like, what is going on? But, yes, I went to my first Buc-ee's, I believe, last year on my way back from
gotta
the
be a Buc-ee's
Nashville.
between here and Oklahoma City.
It's fun. I did not expect I didn't know what to expect, but it was certainly a new experience for me. It's like a grocery store.
Well, then everybody's hyping up this Wawa.
Yeah, Wawa's not bad.
Is it the real deal?
It's pretty
Wawa
good.
or Buc-ee's? Who wins in a fight?
Well,
Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's is by scale. I mean, it's like walking into. Yeah, I always
Is
say
this the
it's
100-man versus the gorilla?
Yeah. It's basically if your local convenience store got married to a Walmart, is kind of what it ends up looking like, right?
Well, Buc-ee's or Wawa?
Buc-ee's.
Yes, that's
It's just huge, just from the size.
But it's clean.
perspective.
It's so clean.
Yes.
Honestly, that sounds like some couples that have probably happened before. Met at a local convenience mart or met at a Walmart, and next thing you know, I was on a knee in aisle 15.
It's amazing too. Wow.
I should probably stop there.
Could be
Kevin
a pump.
Bourne with the bars.
I was gonna say the other thing could be a pump 82.
Wow.
Every
There
time you
is
go to
a
a Buc-ee's, where
5-minute detour in Springfield.
Look at this.
There you
Look
go.
at
Send it
that.
to Tony East.
there you go. Yeah, fire that right over to Tony. But no, there's always like 115 gas stations or little pumps there, and they're all full. I don't know how that works, but everybody goes there. So, all right, let's check it down here as we get. No, I guess we don't have to do that. I was going to do that 30 minutes ago, right? See, I was you know what it is? Thinking of the brisket right now, and I'm very distracted.
I guess you
You
are.
ever had the
We-
brisket
we-
there?
I have not had the brisket. One
Man.
day.
The rest of the morning's just shot for me. Everybody getting ready for NBA Finals. I do want to spend a couple of quick minutes here at the top of the hour, though, before we head to the top of the hour, discussing more the private ceremony that was held for Jim Irsay yesterday. And just want to make sure that we once again acknowledge what a huge member of the community that man was. I know we did a couple of days in honor of him and looking back at his life and times, but I think someone had said it the best, too, that he loved the Colts, he loved the fans, he loved his family more than anything, but, man, did he love Indianapolis, too. There's no question. You can't argue that fact.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll say, and it always bothers me when people have issues and they go public and, you have those that comment and like, oh, well, why is everyone so upset? Why are you trying to act like he was only this good, great person? And it's like, yes, we know he had issues with, substance abuse. Yes, we know he said some things that we may have, disagreed on, things like that. But at the same time, there are very few of us, very, very few, where everything you do is a story. Every time you speak, it's a story. Every time you do anything, it is news. And so I give some grace there because it is a lot of pressure to be under that amount of scrutiny. And I get it, billionaire, don't want to hear, had an easy life. He really didn't have this easy life. He had a lot of money in his life, but if you know anything about Jim Irsay's backstory, how he grew up, the things he went through, there were a lot of demons there as well. And so obviously on top of all of that, I think that he was more good than bad, which is more than, which is what most of us can usually try to expect or want for our lives.
Yeah, and James, correct me if I'm wrong, speaking of that, he lost a brother and sister before he was a teenager, is that correct?
I believe he
sister
lost
hit by a car, right?
Yes, I believe he lost his sister, and then his brother might have had special needs as well. And obviously we know about the...
And I thought lost his life at some point. I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, certainly grew up. No one obviously should grow up anywhere in that realm. Hashtag thank you, Jim. The Colts have done on Twitter, and it's been I've enjoyed just occasionally seeing that pop up on my timeline and just scrolling through people sharing stories about how Jim Irsay's impacted their lives, and again just the hey, all of a sudden Jim saw on the news one night that, my family's home had been ravaged due to a fire, and 3 days later, boom, here's this check. Just like little stuff that you would have never seen. I remember when we had the, the first show we did the morning after his passing, we had the caller reach out and share that, they had managed a Qdoba, and one of their workers, his mom was on the house staff at Jim Irsay's home, and Jim Irsay had a rule would be the right word, or just a principle of, hey, I'm going to send the children of my house workers to college as long as they maintain good grades and as long as they continue to work for me. That's part of what I'm going to do. And at that point, and this was like a decade ago, Jim Irsay had sent like 80 kids to college on a full ride, based off that. And again, just stuff that, I feel like we had never really heard that much about with him. Sure, there were some public acts, but there were so many more from a private act. So, to your point, Jeff, yeah, he went bad for our city a whole lot. And, him and Herb Simon probably a little bit different in how outwardly they are supportive. But they definitely do it in different ways. And I think both of them, in different manners, are super well respected by their colleagues in the NFL and the NBA. And that's important, I think, when you're a smaller city. Obviously, the Pacers had rich ABA history. But still, there's oftentimes the big market debate. And I think both of those owners, in, again, different ways, went to bat for us a lot.
Yeah, and Steve Simon was on with Jake yesterday and also talked about the fact that he had been to that memorial service and what it meant to them, and that they had always gotten along and tried to do things together. And he said, no question in his mind, Jim would be ecstatic that the Pacers are playing in the NBA Finals right now because he was an Indianapolis guy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's a huge fan, obviously, and he even donated and helped donate to Rick Carlisle's food drive, food insecurity initiative. So a lot of respect for him. I will say this: I had a chance to talk to or catch up with Jeffrey Gorman, who works for the Colts and was a really close friend of Jim Irsay. I would honestly say they probably consider each other to be like brothers, and just gave him a hug when I saw him at OTAs last week. And you could just tell, even though everyone's like functioning because they kind of have to because of the NFL demands. And, we've all been through. You lose somebody, the world doesn't stop. Unfortunately, sometimes it keeps going. And you have to kind of wade your way through that. And he could just, you could tell it's weighing on him and other people to sort of be a little bit kind of in that in-between of like, he was just here, but he's not here. And how do we adjust to that going forward? Talked to Rick Venturi on the sideline at OTAs as well. He's telling me all these stories about, I remember back in this year, Jim did this. And I was like, what are you doing? And vice versa. And he was like, what are you doing? And, he said they went from being like, obviously, employee, employer to, friends and brothers. And he was saying he's going to really miss like those preseason broadcasts where, every third preseason game, Jim Irsay is going to get on the call and say we're winning the Super Bowl very soon and things like that. So just a weird time, but obviously a time that we all have to kind of work through.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll talk more about the NBA Finals coming up and get some outside perspective on that as well. And then coming up at 9:30, we're going to check in a little bit later with one of your colleagues.
Yes, Joel Lorenzi coming in from the Oklahomans to talk OKC.
All right, that's all straight ahead on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Tickets and ticket prices and big events over the break there. And you go back and forth because you want to go to these games so badly, right? But then you look at the prices, and God bless anybody who wants to go on that experience and do that. And maybe if I, for example, had unlimited resources, maybe that's something that I wouldn't even think twice about doing. But like I said, like many other people listening, I got 2 kids getting ready to go to college in a couple of years here, and every penny seems to count these days.
I want to hear the opinion of the listeners. YouTube chat, feel free to chime in. Are you doing a finals watch party? Or
That would be fun.
Are you like me, where you're like, if you ain't locked into the game, we can catch us some other time because I can't have either or. We can order the food.
Superstitions probably come into play a bit as well.
That's true, probably. But I'm like, we can order the food, we can wear the jerseys, but when it's tip off, I don't want to hear about how your kids are doing or, what you're doing in college or me personally. I don't want to hear
no time for that. Media timeouts are long enough. You can chat about it then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
$771. That's the ticket price. Cheapest for game 1 in OKC. $1,105 for game 3. This is just a secondary ticket market I looked up a little bit earlier in the show. I did see yesterday, and it got us thinking with Tony East making the drive later today down there, 10.5 hours. It's the shortest distance between 2 NBA final teams since 1971. Like, if the Pacers wanted to, they could come home after Thursday night.
That is such
I've known
a
teams
unique
that have
stat
done
to me.
that in the past, especially if there's like 2 or 3 days between games. I've known teams that have come home.
Because you don't play till Sunday. I assume the Pacers are staying. I don't know that, but you easily could. I mean, what's that flight? Hour and a half, probably?
Yeah.
Hour and 50 minutes?
I'm going to
direct?
guess with a couple of the ankle stuff going on with Jarris Walker and Aaron Nesmith.
Yeah,
I
I don't think they
OKC.
will, but teams have done that before in the postseason here. So, of all the similarities between these teams, is this the flyover finals? Is that what people are going to call it?
It's interesting. Everybody talks about that, and I was thinking about the NBA right now. To be completely honest with you, small market teams, middle market teams, they're having a moment right now in the NBA. You take a look at the Eastern Conference, obviously, and the Pacers are there, and now they're taking on Oklahoma City from the West. We'll get to that in a minute, but look at some of the other teams and how they've done. Obviously, the Atlantic Division is all big market teams, but in the Central, the teams that have done well, Cleveland won 64 games. The Pacers are here in the finals. The Bucks won 48 games. And the Magic won their division in the Southeast. And then you look at the Western Conference and the top 4 teams, Oklahoma City, Denver, Minneapolis, the Minnesota Timberwolves, Portland Trailblazers, and even the Jazz were in the 5th spot in the Northwest Division there. Obviously, they only won 17 games.
I was about to say they were horrible.
But my point is if you start to look at some of these smaller market teams, Memphis Grizzlies finished 48-34. They're having a moment right now. I kind of like it. I'm down for it. I'm digging it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the parity of the league. And I think it's what the NFL has done so well on their side where pretty much every year, no matter what market you're in, there's going to be some sort of storyline, some sort of competition. It isn't just like LA teams and New York teams or whatever getting all the hype. I know Dallas Cowboys get talked about a lot in the NFL, but it doesn't mean like they're winning a lot. It is a lot of parity on that side. I think the NBA is sort of catching up in that regard with the parity we've seen. And, Rick Carlisle said it himself. He said it when they got to the conference finals. It's wide open. And it feels like it's more wide open than it has been in years past. And honestly, it's not just a feeling, it's reality. I believe it'll be the 7th different champion we've had in the last 7 years, first time in NBA history that's ever happened. So that's a good thing for the league because it forces you to pay attention to other markets.
And that comes right off the back of the dynasty, so to speak, for the Golden State Warriors, too.
Yeah, I mean, really, once the heat kind of died out there, and the Warriors, obviously had some leaner years there late. I think it's great. I mean, honestly, out of professional sports, what do I want? I want parity. I want the ability to feel like you can walk in there and in any given year, it's relatively wide open, whether that is playoff appearances or playoff runs. Honestly, you could probably say the NFL, it's more of the NFL lately has been a little bit more top heavy of just, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Philly. I get Detroit's done it, and then I get Washington got on a run. The NFL, it's usually a little bit more of the back end of the playoffs. Those are the teams that rotate out a whole lot. And I shared this with you guys at the start of the show. It's something that hit me yesterday. I forget which team it was, but one of these teams around the league kind of announcing, hey, we got this NBA draft workout. I looked up, and 2 years ago, right now, June 3rd, the Pacers had just wrapped up their 5th draft workout. Like right now, we would be talking about Walter Clayton Jr. and Danny Wolf, and is Mackenzie Mbako still in the draft? I'm trying to think of like these other names we'd be talking about. The Pacers have a first-round pick. The draft's 3 weeks from tomorrow. It's not like the draft is that far away. The draft ends what? If we go to Game 7 of this series, Game 7's the 22nd, the NBA draft's the 25th. It's like for 28 other teams, that's where they're at right now. And here we are on June 3rd, griping and moaning about the NBA Finals not starting sooner so we can watch the Pacers. I mean, like,
I'll take it.
That's our June reality in this year of 2025. We just wrapped up the craziest sports month this state has ever seen. And
Maybe
now here we are in June. We're
Good
not
point, Jeff.
We're not begging for, Indianapolis Indians updates. We're not sitting here, trying to overanalyze the Fevers point guard situation. No. We have a legitimate NBA Finals discussion for
You know what?
the Pacers.
That's a great point you made because Caitlin Clark hasn't played in like a week, and it's barely been a topic on our airwaves. And obviously that would be like the number one topic had the Pacers not been in the finals. And obviously the quarterback
Colts
competition
OTA
and stuff
recap,
like that.
James. Yeah, I mean, you and I were out there last week. It's like, and I get that it's late May football, but in most markets, that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
That's what is dominating the conversation here. So it is pretty freaking amazing that this is where we're at. And really just kind of an 18-month period of, I said it to you guys yesterday, the Nemhard shot Game 3 of that Knicks series.
You're talking about last year.
Last year, right. Just to be clear. That shot, I mean, you're staring 3-0 right in the face. You're not coming back from 3-0. That shot goes in from the left wing.
Changes everything.
And now here you are, 13 months later, playing in an NBA Finals.
I like it. So much of the discussion nationally, people talk about small markets in the NBA. I don't care if the NBA, they're going to be fine, James. The NBA, they've already got the money in the bank for this year's finals. They've already made their TV deals. They're going to be fine. What's interesting to me, though, is we talked about yesterday, this is the first time that we have two non-luxury tax teams playing for an NBA Finals. And Charles Barkley was talking about yesterday the fact that truly right now you don't consider these super teams. They're not the three big stars all banding together.
No.
And he's looking forward to that.
So does it mean more, just real quick, Eddie, does it mean more for these guys like a Halliburton or a SGA to win a title this way than it does for some of these guys that did, as you say, cheated to get the title?
Why don't you ask Dirk Nowitzki that? He'll tell you privately, hell yeah, it means a lot more. And especially he beat a quote-unquote super team. It definitely means more to the players. And I think it means more to the city, to be honest with you. So that's just my opinion. Yeah, I've talked to Dirk Nowitzki. I know it means a lot to him. And I know of Oklahoma City, who got a tremendous fan base, and obviously the Pacers have a tremendous fan base. You think they would have been happy for Reggie Miller if he had went somewhere else and won? Seriously. Look, I give LeBron some credit. He went back to Cleveland and won one, but you don't think those people in Cleveland were happy when he won those two in Miami. I mean, no, it means a lot more if you can do it somewhere when you went through the grind.
Who was the head coach for that Dirk Nowitzki-led Dallas team, Kevin?
Yeah, Rick Carlisle trying to become the 4th coach, I believe, in NBA history. Scotty can double-check me on this, to win 2 titles, or to win a title, I should say, with 2 franchises or more. Riley, Phil, and I forget who the third one is. But yeah, Rick Carlisle, of course, the coach there.
So I'll push back on this a little bit with Charles Barkley, mainly because I don't think a fan base necessarily cares how you build it if you win. Like, I don't know if Miami's a little bit different because
1,000%.
Miami. But
the title's the title, the parade's the parade.
Exactly. Like, and maybe it feels different for the players.
I don't care at all.
If you have the homegrown, but I don't even know if players necessarily care like that, because I look back at it like, and this is why I think it's funny when you get to these points in people's career and they forget what they did. Didn't Charles Barkley try to ring chase at the end? Didn't he team up with a couple of guys? I believe it might have been like in the Philly days or whatever. Didn't he try to go get a shot at one more? So, I don't know if you can say that confidently and be like, well, I stuck it out and with the Suns and tried to win it and, do it the quote unquote right way. And it's like, did you really? Like, I don't know. Like, he joined the Rockets at the end of his career.
With Clyde, wanted to go with Clyde.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, sorry, Philly was before
Yeah.
the Suns, but after that, you tried to get up with some of these older players and chase a ring as well. I'm not trying to really hear that. Karl Malone joined the Lakers late when they didn't win it against
With
Detroit.
Peyton.
Yeah, so like all of them who have like tried it the like valiant and honorable way and didn't win it, they all ring chased at the end. So I'm not trying to hear that. I'm not going to
blame them though for trying to do that at the end,
I'm
because
not
that's
gonna,
why they play.
You can't come back and say, well, a guy like Kevin Durant or somebody who took the easy way out, LeBron James, well, they got their rings and they didn't really have to work for them. It's like, well, in
You still gotta go
hindsight,
win games.
would you have done the same thing? Like, if you ask Kevin Garnett, he spent years trying to win in Minnesota and it didn't work. And if you ask him now, he says his only regret is I didn't leave sooner.
Kevin Garnett.
Like,
Yeah.
Kevin Garnett. He left Minnesota, joined Boston, got a championship.
Well,
and, I mean, I don't care how you win it. You got to win it.
And also, when all we do is like criticize the rings or the lack thereof, then how do you fault some of these guys? And like, who's to say just because you got drafted by these franchises, you have to stay there?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for loyalty. It's a cool story. Reggie Miller, that's awesome. But like, at the end of the day, if you're in these guys' positions and all you hear about is you can't win the big one, you can't win it all. Well, if that's all I'm hearing and I want to strive to be great, then I'm going to probably try and do everything I can to get that ring. So, I would agree with you, James. I would push back on Charles. Like, the Pacers never won an NBA championship. I don't think anybody in this market cares how it was built, who they're playing in the finals, any of that. I said to you guys yesterday, is it a little bit cherry on top that the Pacers are enjoyable to watch? Yeah, I do think that's true. But,
for sure.
That's the cherry on top. The analogy I made yesterday was if Notre Dame wins a national championship next year without throwing a forward pass all season, I'll be in the green Speedo around the circle. I don't care.
You're getting quite the collection going here.
Just win, baby. I sound like Al Davis here. That to me is what it is all about. Sure, the Pacers play a great brand of basketball. They seem like a bunch of likable dudes. All of that, I think, just makes the story sweeter, honestly. It wouldn't if the brawl-leaded Pacers all of a sudden came back and won a title just because whatever they're off the court. However you want to describe the brawl, you still would have celebrated a championship just as much as you're going to celebrate a championship if it happens here in a couple.
I think it's true too. Back to your point about Charles and chasing rings at the end, though, it means so much to those players by the time they do get done, regardless of what they say, because one of the underlying themes of that Inside the NBA is that Shaq and Kenny relentlessly and mercilessly give him grief about being the guy that didn't win a ring on that set.
Exactly. So I'm just excited to see, like I said, a very good finals matchup. I know Vegas might not agree, but you got two teams trying to win their first championship ever in the NBA, and it certainly will be something that both fan bases will remember for a long time because it doesn't happen that often. Obviously, for the Pacers, they haven't been there even as recently as OKC's been there. So we'll see what happens.
Earlier in the show, I said to you guys, the Pacers have got to put Oklahoma City in real game pressure situations. You've got to get to the final 5 minutes of games, and you've got to make them work for it. I thought the Tony East stat that he shared with us 45 minutes ago kind of backs that up. Tony mentioned the Thunder have more double-digit wins this season than the Pacers have wins. It's an astonishing stat. The Thunder, again, set NBA records for biggest margin, for most double-digit wins, all of that. My question would be, what happens in an NBA final setting when, let's say this series goes 6 games? If in 5 of those games you get to the final 5 minutes and it's 1 possession? I think that's what you got to make the Thunder work and kind of prove themselves. Sure, they've had moments. James brought up the stat. What are they, 5-2 in the postseason in these clutch games? Okay, they've done it at a nice rate so far. Now what happens in the finals? What happens when they face a Pacer team that has absolutely thrived in the clutch? They haven't survived in the clutch. They have thrived in that setting. That's different than Minnesota. That's different than Denver. Certainly is different than Memphis in round one. And this gets back to the Carlisle discussion. You know, if you look at Oklahoma City's run so far, I mean, they faced interim coaches in the first two series. How many times in the history of the NBA playoffs has the team faced an interim coach in back-to-back playoff series? But that's where Memphis was, and that's where Denver was. Now, yes, Chris Finch, accomplished coach with the T-Wolves, but Rick Carlisle's NBA pedigree, a little bit different on this stage than any other coach. So, you know, those are the two areas of, like, can you put the real game pressure on OKC, make them work, just put them in situations they're not super comfortable or used to. They might thrive in these situations too. They might be great. They might check even more boxes in how unbelievable of a season they have had. Or they might have a chink in the armor or two. And if you're able to take one of that, especially the one on Thursday night,
takes the win out of the sails of a home team. But even you come back with a split, and you're feeling pretty good when you get back home, James. Even if you get game two and not game one, you come back and you feel really good.
I think game one matters even more.
It does. It does.
I know,
it's a gut punch,
I know
but I'll still
1-1
take
is
the split.
1-1, but you making Oklahoma City have to think about it those first 3 days, because, again, it's a 3-day break between 1 and 2. You know, them having to think about it for those 3 days, and then it's a little bit of house money feel to game two. How uptight are they? That's what Denver did. Denver got 1, and that series went all the way to 7. I just think Thursday night matters massively.
Well, as I said earlier in the show, whoever wins 2 games in a row in this series will probably win the series. Not a hot take at all, but if the Pacers go down 0-2 and can't get a game in OKC, I believe they'll lose this series.
When's the last time the Pacers have lost 2 in a row?
Was it the Knicks series last year? Down 0-2? So, obviously you survived that.
Celtics, but yeah.
Well, came back and won it, but yes,
yeah. But even regular season-wise, James, that's where I was going with it. Regular season.
Fair, yeah.
You know, if you go back to, and again, you know, Halliburton healthy, I think I said this, you know, leading into Game 5 of the Knicks series, I go, there's no chance the Pacers lose the series. The last time they've lost 3 in a row with a healthy Halliburton was December. So, guys, it's June. You know how long ago December was? And if maybe tomorrow we'll get more into the individual Thunder-Pacer matchups, because there are a lot of things you point to in the regular season meetings, and maybe they don't apply, but heavily favor Oklahoma City. The Pacers were beating the Thunder with 3 minutes to go in one of those games. And what happened? The Thunder delivered in the clutch. Now, again, the clutch on a December, you know, regular season game versus the clutch in a June NBA Finals game is 2 different situations. So those will be some things to watch.
For what it's worth, Oklahoma City did lose game 1 in the Denver series, forced them to go 7 games. So, to your point, it could be could really put them in a spot. One thing worth mentioning, Kylan had just texted me this from a caller. John called in saying massive construction and backups happening on the south side between 65 and 465, down to just 1 lane. So maybe if you're just leaving the house, you might want to avoid that area, JB.
Good advice.
Don't have to worry about that usually at 6 o'clock in the morning. 5:30, 6 o'clock. So.
Yeah, worth mentioning for how many listeners listen in the car. It's
seriously.
A crazy amount. You know the state flower for Indiana during this time? The construction cone.
And the does it start with a P? Isn't it? I was trying to think what the state flower is.
I always wonder, though, too, like...
I have a book that has all these state things I read to Max occasionally, and I was like, where's Kylan going with this?
I always want to talk to the city planners, though, in some of the suburbs, too, because do they not know that they're choking off certain areas of the city because there's 4 different construction sites, and no matter how you want to go, you're just going to be backed up forever? I don't understand the planning around that sometimes.
I've lived here for, I don't know how long now, about 4 years, and I've never seen this place like not under construction. So
there were so many
good for the economy.
complaints
I'm just used to it.
for the All-Star last year. When I heard people coming in, visitors, they would be like, this stupid construction. I wonder how it's going to be for the WNBA All-Star. If they're still going to have all this
If anybody can fix the potholes in this city, it is Caitlin Clark making a declaration.
Dude,
so Caitlin Clark,
I'll vote for you, mayor, governor, anything if you can fix the roads. That's all I'm asking. That's all I care about right now.
Asking for a lot.
Apparently. All right, let's check it down and let you know what's going on. Kevin Bowen, both teams will be coming into this series rested. We got that going on. Both of them with multiple days off before Game 1 starts the championship run.
Yeah, and I think only injury really to keep an eye out for, again, unfortunately, Jarris Walker. He will be out for the first 2 games where Carlisle shared that with us. yesterday. Game 3 would be a week from tomorrow, if you're keeping an eye out for that. Thunder, I think, mostly healthy. And this probably just goes another thorn in the, or honestly, notch on the belt for Thunder. The Thunder were really banged up throughout the season, too. Like, I mean, they had a lot. I mean, Chet Holmgren missed a ton of time due to injuries. A lot of their rotational guys missed time, too. Holmgren missed both of those Pacers matchups. Neesmith missed one of them, if you want to get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty on those two matchups. But again, a 9-point spread here in game 1. So Vegas very, very high on the Thunder here. I would certainly take the Pacers.
James, I know you're always reading up on things. Anything new and different? What did you learn about Oklahoma City yesterday?
I haven't read too much about them. I spent some time reading some Pacer stuff. Actually, I want to give a shout out to Tony East again for his piece that he did following the advance to the NBA Finals. Gave us a lot of color, things we didn't necessarily see or read about elsewhere. I thought he did a phenomenal job kind of setting the scene and what it meant for that team to get to the NBA Finals.
All right, so Thursday night, game 1 in Oklahoma City, airtime 8:30 here on The Fan. Pregame starts at 8 on the network, and we'll have a little pregame to the pregame with JMV before that sets up as well. Major League Baseball, the Reds, the only one of our area teams that were involved in a game yesterday. They dropped one to the Brewers. 3-2 was the final score there. Brewers have won 8 games in a row. One other Major League game of note, New York Mets beat the Dodgers by a score of 4-3 in L.A., 10 innings. Dodgers have had back-to-back series with the Yankees and the Mets. Kind of interesting there. I love watching Shohei Ohtani. I do. That's as I'm flipping through the channels at night, if I see a Dodgers game on and he's coming up, I'm there for a few minutes. It's fun to watch, man. What else we have going on?
He hit out last night. It looked like it was close to getting out of the stadium. That is how great he is.
We got Fever tonight. Again, that's 7 o'clock. You can hear that on our airwaves. Eddie Garrison will have your pregame coverage coming up 6:45. It is the Mystics. They are favored by about 4 last I checked. In this one, again, we will see what happens from a point guard playing time standpoint. Caitlin Clark out 2 more games at least here. Sydney Colson, who had been getting most of the minutes, she is healthy for tonight based off the injury report there. Then Ari McDonald, who they signed yesterday, sounds like she could get some minutes as early as tonight here. So, not that the WNBA season is short, but 44 games. I mean, I it can start to add up a little bit here. So important for the Fever to weather some of this storm, especially if Clark's going to miss more than just these 2 games. We'll wait the evaluation period on that. So, Fever Mystics tonight. That is WALV. I think that's your sister station on WTHR Me TV if you're looking to watch that tonight, 7 o'clock.
All right, and coming up in a few minutes, we will head out to Oklahoma City and see what's going on with the Thunder. Joe Lorenzi writes for the Oklahoman. What can he tell us? What can we learn this morning on this show about the opponent for the Indiana Pacers? That's next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. He's MVP. No surprise on who is the favorite to win the series MVP. Betting odds wise, James.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I believe.
That's
I want
it.
to say Tyrese might have the second best odds.
Tyrese is plus 700. So SJ is minus 625. And second best is Halliburton at plus 700. Siakam is plus 1,600. Williams is plus 3,000 for OKC. And Chet Holmgren is plus 8,000.
That's wild. I mean, I guess it makes sense when you think about how much Vegas is thinking Oklahoma City's going to run away with the series. So
we do have Joel Lorenzi on the line from the Oklahoman. A long time no talk, I guess, from Joel, going from being the Indy Star sports intern to now one of the basketball capitals, I guess, of the universe at the moment. Joel, how you doing?
James Boyd, what's going on, bro? Good to hear from you.
I can hear the sleep in your voice. Thanks for waking up, man. Hour difference out there in Oklahoma City, and obviously you have been covering this OKC team for a couple of seasons now. You know them better than anybody. So heading into this series, what do they think of this Pacers matchup? I know nationally a lot of it is, the OKC's going to run away with this thing. But I did hear SGA talk about this team the other day. I believe you might have asked him the question, just how they're built and what they can do to exploit this Pacers team.
Yeah, I think for this team, like through this run and through the season, it's kind of held them up. The way they view teams, they really don't even look up. They don't overdo as far as preparation. They're not getting super granular. They know what you're good at. They know your identity. I think the things that they have gotten specific on and that they have been able to come out and recognize are like the Pacers know who they are, right? They play fast. They're unwavering in the way they play, whereas, a lot of teams, they might bend on how they play. That hasn't been the case with Indy, at least from afar. And so they could at least recognize that, like game recognizes game. They're kind of the same way that they're going to turn you over all the time, and you really can't force them out of that. And so they can at least come out and fess up and say, hey, they're good at that. And then, Miles Turner said as much, the whole power of friendship thing. They've come out and noted like, hey, they're pretty organic in the way they've been built, and it's kind of led to this run where you could see internally why they've been able to push past some of these teams on the other side of the bracket off chemistry alone. So I think those are the two things they kind of pointed to and been able to acknowledge, like, okay, these are our similarities, and these are probably why both teams have gotten this far.
Joel Lorenzi from the Oklahoman with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. There's a million stats you could point to that are astonishing with the Thunder. What do you make of them being 29-1 against the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I think they just get up for the regular season more than anybody. Those dudes, every game was like the Super Bowl for them during the regular season. And they were, I will say, last year, my first season covering them, they were like remarkably healthy. I thought it was stunning this year because they were not remarkably healthy this year. They were actually the complete opposite, and they still ran through the East. It was crazy. And the one game they lost to the East was, I don't know if you guys remember this, the national TV game in Cleveland that came down to like a 2-possession game and was pretty much wire to wire. So they had their way with the East. I don't know. As far as its bearing on this series, my thinking is I think Indy should be competitive. I like the way they play. I like their identity. I like the run that Halliburton's on. But I don't know. Minnesota, people are going to like balk at Minnesota and say, well, Denver was injury riddled, whatever. But my thinking is kind of like if they couldn't do it, I don't know, man, because Denver, I think we really got to revisit the Denver series and look at it through a different lens. Nikola Jokic, I applaud him for being able to almost single-handedly push OKC to 7 games. There's never going to be another player, I think, that they have to give that much attention. And that matters, and that pushed them to 7 games. Like that's literally, as as inefficient as he was in that series, it's the attention they had to give him that sort of made that series last so long. And so if all that could happen and you had to stretch the Thunder defense that far and it still wasn't enough, and if Minnesota, because I do think Minnesota's still, worthy of being in the finals if the Thunder didn't exist. If Minnesota could play the kind of game it played in Game 4, which was a perfect game, maybe the best game they had from an opponent the whole postseason, and still not win, I don't know, man. I don't know that Indy's chances are great after seeing those things, but I do think Indy will get a game or two, probably two. But I don't know. The regular season East thing, I don't know that I think too hard on it. It's a cute stat, but I don't know that it has any bearing on this series.
I guess the reason why I asked it is, like, is there just like and we can move on, but like, is there a shock when you see the Thunder for the first time? Like maybe some teams in the West, they've seen them 2, 3, even 4 times. So I don't know. Maybe you're better to withstand that. Is there? And obviously the Pacers have already seen them twice, but is there anything to point to if you just don't see the Thunder very often? Particularly, you don't see that amount of defense, you don't see that amount of length, and you can't hunt anybody. All those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're right. There's an added layer when you have history with Dallas and Denver and whoever else. The familiarity, I think, already adds some tension to the game and probably brings it within possessions by the end of the game already. But I think the thing for them this year, whether you're probably right, like whether you're in or out of the game with them has depended on how much you can brace for the way it forced turnovers. And so if there is familiarity there, you're probably right in that, like if you've seen it before, maybe you know what's coming. If you haven't, you've played 7 games in 11 days and you've been playing the Hornets and whoever else, then you're probably not as ready for it.
Joel, I want to go back to the Denver series, and I know Jokic makes everything completely different. Is there anything that the Pacers could learn from the way the Nuggets defensively attacked Oklahoma City?
Yeah, of course. I thought. I mean, again, Denver was super impressive. Just some of the things they had to deal with. I mean, Aaron Gordon had different injuries. Michael Porter Jr. was basically playing with one arm, and they entered the postseason as like this really average, and that's maybe being generous, this average defense. And they probably, of all the teams, defended OKC best, I'd say. Like, just the schemes they threw out, they weren't super, like they were able to bend to certain schemes. Like, I thought the thing they did most consistently was, okay, they're putting, Christian Brown up top, on Shea. So Shea, one, has to get past Christian Brown. Behind Christian Brown, you got 2 guys helping super hard from each wing. There's basically a box behind Christian Brown. And then you can kind of hide, I use the word hide loosely, but you can kind of hide Jokic and put him in a spot where he's comfortable to get deflections. I thought he was pretty good at that in different points in that series. Miles Turner's obviously a better defender. And so, Indy has better personnel. And just the kind of box they built around Christian Brown and the kind of some of the ways, like as soon as Shea will get into the paint, they're like switching the zone sometimes. Like they had different looks, but they also do like, okay, like the goal is to like really keep Shea as high up the floor as possible and really crowd him like before he would even reach the free throw line. Like I thought a lot of the stuff they did was good, and it's some of the rougher games he had this postseason, all season really. This is from, again, very average defense, at least personnel-wise and metrics-wise. So I thought every team could learn from what happened in that series.
Joel, when you look at the way SGA has kind of ascended in the NBA, what is it about this season in particular that has allowed him to take his game to another level and obviously be, I would imagine, number one on the Pacers' priority list?
Yeah, I thought he was pretty great last year, to be honest. I just don't think a lot of people were watching. That being said, I think the same would apply to last year in terms of the growth. The question would apply to last year. I just think, I don't know. I think part of it is the environment he's around. I mean, this team is so perfectly built around him. I know people like to say, like, oh, OKC is a super team, like this and that. But he, like, you strip the team, like, up until this point, Jalen Williams had not played to this level consistently. Like, he had a great Western Conference Finals. But up until this point, the thing that's kept them going is Shea. Like, Shea is the system. Like, I know it sounds crazy. We're venturing into, like, James Harden, Houston territory, but, like, that's what he is. Like, they're able to do a lot of the things they can do because he's at the center of it. I mean, you don't see a lot of teams, I don't think really any in the NBA right now, that are so defensively slanted in terms of roster construction, but he allows for that because they have good positional size with him at point guard. He can switch. He's in the lanes. He's active. Like, he's not a lazy superstar. And so, like, he allows you to do so much and have this sort of roster construction and have these switchable players and a defensive-minded team, which is really, like, teams could say, oh, we want to build defensively, but to see it happen and not have a lot of creators, like, he's your main creator by a wide margin, like, it's unique to me. And so he's at the center of it all. And then as far as, like, temperament and stuff, like, I think he was talking about this yesterday. Like, he's very even-keeled and consistent, which has become, like, a meme. You know, he's like, oh, yeah. My whole life is consistent, whatever. But it's real. I mean, like, he's super disciplined. He's never really expressive in a game. It's very rare. The only team he's really emoting on is the Mavericks because I think he secretly, at least the Mavericks of old, he probably hated them. But, you know, he really keeps all that stuff to himself. Very private guy. And I think it's kind of manifested on the court. And he's, as he said yesterday, sort of been able to weaponize that lack of emotion. And I think people made a big deal in the Denver series. He got caught when they went down 2-1, I believe, in Denver. He got caught, like, smiling on his way off the court. And that's, like, that became a thing. And that was, like, that's as much emotion as you're going to get out of him. And I think he's been able to be this sort of even-keel leader who never really falters in these clutch moments. Now, the Thunder didn't have a lot of clutch moments this season, but you know, based on his body of work, that when it comes to that, and you've seen in this postseason, when it comes to that late game, like, he's going to be there.
Joel, thanks so much for your thoughts this morning, man. We appreciate you getting up early on your time zone to be with us, and we look forward to talking again as the series goes along.
I ain't doing all. You owe me for that. Yes, I appreciate you getting up.
Him.
But I appreciate that, man. I'll actually see you next week when you get down to Indianapolis. But safe travels, my man, and thanks again. Keep crushing it at the Oklahoma.
Yes, sir. All love, guys.
All right, there you go. We'll see how much all the love between OKC and Indiana lasts as the series goes on.
Me and Joel might have to square up. I don't know. We'll see. But no, I'm joking. He's a great writer. Obviously, like I said, was a former intern at Indy Star and has taken off with his career. And he kind of got to OKC when they were ascending, so he's seen this thing kind of take off.
Speaking of some local connections, DJ White, certainly a decorated career down there in Bloomington. He is the GM of the Thunder Blue. That would be their G League team. So now a lot of IU fans enjoyed watching DJ White play for the Cream and Crimson. He is the GM of the Thunder's G League team.
All right, Scotty's got his say coming up in just a moment. We'll leave you a couple final thoughts as we wrap up the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan next. Still kind of your, 24 hours ago, we were just listening to people and the wonderful experience they had witnessing the Eastern Conference Championship the other night. I'm still kind of floating along on that cloud, too. I'm still just really psyched about where they're at.
Hear me out on one more story from a fan, okay, about Saturday night. Now,
Good.
I thought the 9 o'clock hour, for those that missed it yesterday, thoroughly enjoyed. Pretty much we just took fan phone calls for an entire hour, looking back on the scene from Saturday night. If you were there, if you weren't there, it didn't matter. Memories, nostalgia, all of it. Really, really enjoyed it. Listener Brian reached out to me after the show and shared this. He was at a wedding at the library downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So for those unfamiliar with our downtown makeup, geography-wise, we are here at the Circle. That is point whatever, 0, if you will, on the map. The library is what, at 10th and Meridian? Something like that. 10 blocks, 10 city blocks north of the Circle.
1 mile. Yep.
Brian left said wedding at about 7:45, scootered it down to the general vicinity of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, into the Fieldhouse for Game 6. Gold shirt on, leaves at the buzzer, back onto scooter around 10:30 or so. Back to the wedding for the final few songs with the gold
That's
shirt
respect
on.
right there. I've got that. I like that.
How tremendous is that?
Is he married?
I believe married, maybe a young
Wow.
child. Absolute Class A effort
That's beautiful.
from listener Brian.
That's beautiful.
Brian,
The scooter idea might be chess versus checkers. I wouldn't have even thought about that.
I will talk to the people over at Gamebridge, and we'll get a statue built out front
1,000%.
because that is phenomenal.
Bicentennial Unity Plaza, get ready.
Yes.
The
Do you
statue of
Do you put it at the library or do you
Fan
put it at
Brian.
the field house?
It has to have the scooter with it.
It has to have the scooter with it, and
That's
you
what
can
I'm
put it
saying.
anywhere.
Thank you, Kyla. That is great.
And a little explanation on the little plaque underneath it, right?
Yes, yes.
This is in honor of. All right, time now for Scotty J's Jiffy Lube stat of the day. We had talked about this earlier. You are not that interested in it, but it is true, Kevin. One link between the Pacers and the Thunder is, of course, Paul George. Pacers traded George to OKC for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis back in 2017. Then in 2022, the Pacers traded Sabonis to Sacramento for Tyrese Halliburton. The Thunder had traded George to the Clippers in 2019 in a deal that included Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and multiple first-round draft picks, one of which became Jalen Williams. So George was an all-star with both the Pacers and the Thunder, but both teams traded him away. He is just the second player in NBA history to previously be an all-star without both NBA Finals participants, but not be on either team's roster when they did face off in the finals while still an active NBA player. You guys want to take a shot at who the only other guy was? Kind of obscure. Scotty's digging deep on this one, but it's worth
I'm
it.
not going to lie. I heard Paul George and I tuned it out. Where are we going?
Shaquille O'Neal was a member of the Phoenix Suns when the Lakers and Magic played in the finals in 2009. He had played for both those teams previous. Kind of interesting.
Paul George did a lot for the Pacers franchise. I got no time to talk about Paul this week. Scotty, great stat. Excellent. I'm talking about the 2024-2025 Indiana Pacers against the 2024-2025 Oklahoma City Thunder.
I like it. I'm here for little things like that. For I love the how this team was built, how it came to be. I like the iterations of, especially in today's NBA where there's so much player movement. How do you, to the point we were making about Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan a little while ago, how do you build your roster in Indianapolis without a big 3 or a big 2 to compete now for an NBA Finals, James?
Go ahead, Kevin. I can see something on your mind.
No. I was just going to go.
Paul George hate.
Any PTSD from Hartenstein last year in that Knicks series? I thought he was a really effective player in that Knicks series, and I almost kind of have forgotten. Oh, yeah, he did sign the big money contract with OKC.
And he's delivered, too. No, you make a great point, and we'll probably have a chance to talk about it a lot more tomorrow, but I think rebounding.
Like him and Chet is such an interesting duel.
Rebounding will be a huge, huge factor in this series. Hartenstein's one of the better offensive rebounders in the NBA, and we saw in this last series that Mitchell Robinson did give the Pacers some issues with gaining the Knicks extra possessions by just crashing the glass, and so they have to be on high alert for that. And I think this game, as much as we talked about, or the series rather, as much as we talked about the guard play and the 2-point guards and their unique styles and SGA and Tyrese Halliburton, the paint will decide a lot of what happens in this series. So Miles Turner is another guy who's going to have to step up.
Yeah, in these playoffs, Pacers have not been good rebounders. And I don't know how many extra possessions you can give an Oklahoma City Thunder team. You've got to get your share of defensive rebounds and not keep giving the other team second chances. It's one of the things that they struggled with a little bit against the Knicks. They struggled with it in each of the previous two series as well. I think there was one game where Cleveland just dominated them on the offensive glass.
Yeah.
It's one area that's been kind of an Achilles heel. You cannot give OKC extra possessions. Just can't do it.
My gears are turning. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. But, yes, now I'm going down the rabbit hole of defensive matchups and what that could look like. And we haven't discussed this too much. And so that'll be something that for all of us to kind of weigh and see what could Rick Carlisle and company do to try to exploit, again, an OKC defense, an OKC team that has been very good all year.
Well, one of the things that the Pacers have done, though, well, is defend the other team's quote-unquote superstar so far in this series.
Very true.
They've done a nice job of that for the most part. And they've taken good care of the basketball. They're going to continue to need to do that because Oklahoma City is even better than the Pacers at not giving up the basketball.
They're a really good team. But as we always say, the game ain't played on paper. You got to play on the court. So
no.
2 more sleeps.
All right, 2 more sleeps. What's your day look like today, KB?
It seems so far away when you say it like that. 2 more sleeps.
It does.
I mean,
So how
we're
are you going to keep yourself
70
busy?
hours. I'll probably go back and, I don't know, watch reruns of Winning Time and Pacers-Lakers from 2000 and Pacers-Thunder on – I saw Pacers-Thunder was on NBA TV last night. Maybe I should have watched that.
I thought you were going to go watch Paul George highlights.
I don't know. Don't think I'm going to be dialing up any Paul George highlights. Maybe the softball. That looked entertaining last night.
Did. Jokes aside, that was awesome.
I actually am very much looking forward to the Fever tonight. I'm like, okay,
that's
what
I'll
at
be
least
doing.
Something. And the Fever kind of need a win. I mean, it's at home without Caitlin Clark and your favorite. I get you don't have Caitlin Clark, but like again, you don't want to get too much behind the 8 ball here.
I think one of the problems that they're dealing with right now, and maybe it's good that they do it early in the season, she's so integral to everything they do on offense. It's tough to kind of reconfigure yourself on the fly and say, okay, now who's doing what and where are you going to be and how are we going to make this play? Because everything runs through her, and right now there is no her. So we'll check that out tonight. Again, you'll hear it right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Great job today, guys. Looking forward to passing time tomorrow again as we get ready for Game 1 of the NBA Finals.